Chapter 52-48. At the same time, old Master Mu, who had received the news, rushed to Changle Street with a group of clansmen. When he saw Mu Jingfeng, old Master Mu could not help but be stunned. Back then, Mu Jingfeng had failed to create chaos and left in a sorry state. Old Master Mu and the rest had all witnessed it with their own eyes. But now, his body was actually fine, and he was able to stand here in such high spirits. This was truly shocking. No one knew what was going on with this Mu Jingfeng. Old Master Mu's face darkened, and he could not help but shout angrily, "Jingfeng, do you really want to take this path? Becoming enemies with the family and his own daughter's life and death enemy." Mu Jingfeng turned to look at old Master Mu. "Father, I've long had no way out." Fifth uncle Mu Jingyang stomped his feet in irritation. "Mu Jingfeng, you've let down the entire Mu family. For your own selfish desires, you opened the Mu family's doors to Tianyun. Not only did you bring people to the Mu family to plunder talismans, you even want to kill your own daughter and family. You're simply insane beyond words. Eldest uncle, if you still have a bit of conscience, quickly turn back." Mu Wuzi, who was standing beside his father, also spoke up. Mu Jingfeng could not help but laugh out loud. "Ha ha ha. What a pretentious act of hypocrisy. Turn back. Do you think I can still turn back at this time? Let me tell you people. If I, Mu Jingfeng, weren't forced by you all, would I have walked on this path of no return? Every single one of you here has a part in forcing me onto this path of no return," he shouted angrily, his old face flushed red. "It's all your fault." Arbor could not help but roll his eyes. "Why are you all talking so much nonsense with him? This kind of person will push the blame to others no matter what he does. He's a reasonable person, and he always feels that he's not in the wrong. Jingfeng, you've disappointed me too much." Old Master Mu shook his head and slowly closed his eyes. Mu Jingfeng sneered. "Don't change the topic. What are you talking about? Shouldn't you be talking about my good daughter now?" "That's right." A few shills in the crowd spoke up again. The crown princess, for her own selfish desires, did not contribute the sacred medicine to the 3 continents. She is truly too selfish and heartless. We can't let such a person become our crown princess. Yes, we can't let her continue to be the crown princess and the future empress of the divine land. Right, right. From beginning to end, there were only a few scattered voices in the crowd, adding fuel to the fire and stirring up the crowd's emotions. However, the crowd was hesitant. They looked at each other and then at the crown prince and the old concubine. These two were not people to be trifled with. If they could avoid provoking them, no one in the crowd wanted to court death by provoking these two people. It was just that the allure of sacred medicine was still too great. Among the crowd, there were also a few hot-blooded youths who were encouraged by a few supporters and started shouting, "The crown princess should hand over the sacred medicine. Yes, hand it over. Hand over the sacred medicine so that we can benefit the commoners." Qi Xianxian was so angry that she roared, "Benefit, you bunch of repulsive people. You might as well feed it to pigs." "What did you say?" A few youths angrily glared at Qi Xianxian, looking like they wanted to fight at the slightest disagreement. Qi Xianxian suddenly flung her cloak to the ground and hooked her finger at those red-browed and green-eyed youths. Chapter 52-49. Come at me, weaklings. As long as you can take 3 moves from me, I'll immediately kneel and kowtow to you to apologize. How could the youths endure such provocation? They immediately jumped out in anger and threw a few punches at Qi Xianxian at the same time. Little Fatty was enraged when he saw this. These people actually dared to gang up on his wife. Did they eat tigers, wolves, and leopards' guts, or were they too happy living and tired of living? daring to hit his wife, just wait for death. Little Fatty's hand moved, and a fierce double-headed hammer appeared in his palm. He swept it across and mercilessly sent two of the youths flying. They were the ones who made the first move, so don't blame him for being merciless. Mu Xiaoxue was protected by Qin grass as she retreated a few steps, her face full of fear. The instant the crown prince made his move, she genuinely felt a sense of impending death assaulting her. She was almost killed by the crown prince's tyrannical power. Almost, just a little bit more. Fortunately, Mu Jingfeng came out to protect her, and only then was she able to hang on to her life. The more it was like this, the more she hated her powerlessness to resist. Why did everyone treat her like this, treating her like she was the mud under the roof that could be exposed and stepped on as they pleased? She, Mu Xiaoxue, was born with such an unlucky life. Why did everyone have cultivation, but she didn't? The more she thought about it, the more she hated and raged. Mu Xiaoxue secretly gritted her teeth and tightly clenched her fists. There would be a day when she would rise up. There would be a day when she would trample all these people who looked down on her beneath her feet. Set up the formation. Old Man Mu angrily shouted and turned to nod at Arbor. Let the Mu family deal with Mu Jingfeng. Jojo, do your thing. Arbor grunted, but his gaze would occasionally follow the Mu family's people. These people set up a formation to deal with Mu Jingfeng, but it was more than enough. After watching for a while, Arbor retracted his gaze and turned to look at Qi Xuanxuan's group, who were ganging up on the youths. Originally, those few youths wanted to beat up Qi Xianxian, but in the end they were beaten up by Little Fatty and Lu Yu instead. It was truly pitiful to not have a brain. Qiao Mook shook her head speechlessly. Mo Lian took a step forward and said to the people who were looking at each other, don't be instigated by people with ulterior motives. Jojo doesn't have any sacred medicine. However, what I can tell you is that the Crown Princess has always been in a place you can't see, silently working hard to develop an antidote for the corpse poison. As for the antidote, we've already made some progress. The Crown Princess subordinates, Fairy Yellow Crane and the others, have already successfully produced the second stage of the antidote. It can be combined with the medicinal power of a high-level pharmacist to prolong the duration of the corpse poison's outbreak. In other words, even if you're bitten by a corpse puppet or accidentally get hit, you won't be incurable in the future. This kind of antidote can work with the medicinal power to delay the time it takes for you to turn into a zombie. It can be extended for 3 years at most. Moreover, this prince believes that within 3 years, your crown princess will definitely lead her team to develop a true antidote. The matter of the antidote will be announced in the Heavenly Pill Hall within 3 days. At that time, you can go and find out for yourselves. It'll be clear at a glance who's right and who's wrong. Everyone couldn't help but become agitated when they heard this. In their impression, His Highness the Crown Prince was very aloof and arrogant. How could he explain so much nonsense to the commoners? Chapter 5250. This time, it was definitely for the sake of the Crown Princess that he explained it so clearly to them. What made them even more excited was that the Crown Princess had been leading Fairy Huang He and the others to make the antidote for the corpse poison. They all knew about the Heavenly Pill House. Fairy Huang He was a yellow-level alchemist in the Heavenly Pill House. Everyone knew how good her alchemy skills were. And His Highness the Crown Prince also said that he would announce the official news within 3 days. This could not be a lie. His Highness the Crown Prince was a man of his word. How could they not believe what he said? They had almost been tricked by Tianyun and had almost wrongly blamed the little Crown Princess. A woman immediately knelt down and sincerely apologized. Your Highness, this commoner was thinking too much just now. This commoner is brainless and almost believed those vicious people from the Tianyun Empire. They had ulterior motives and misunderstood Her Highness the Crown Prince Consort. Please forgive me, Your Highness. Please forgive me, Your Highness. Please forgive me, Crown Princess. Everyone hurriedly prostrated themselves and kowtowed repeatedly begging for forgiveness. This was the scene that Wushwang saw when she arrived on a wild horse. She did not even have the time to ask, who is causing trouble for my sister-in-law on Changle Street, before she was stunned by the scene in front of her. Third young Master Fu urged his horse to follow behind and called out, "Wife, don't be anxious. With His Highness around, you still have to worry about what will happen to the Crown Princess." Princess Wushwang blinked and turned to look at Third Fu. It seems like nothing happened. Third Fu nodded with a smile. I knew it. With His Highness the Crown Prince involved, anything big can be turned into a small matter and nothing can be turned into nothing. My brother is indeed capable. Princess Wushwang nodded repeatedly and turned to run down from the horse. Third young Master Fu hurriedly ran over and grabbed his wife's hand. He said with a smile, "Wife, actually your husband is also very capable." Princess Wushwang turned to glance at him and snorted. "Learn from your brother." "Yes." Third young Master Fu nodded quickly, held the princess's small hand and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely learn more." Princess Wushwang nodded in satisfaction and walked quickly to Arbor's side. She smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, I heard that something happened to you at the entrance of Kai-Dai Brothel on Changle Street. I hurried over to take a look." "What can happen to me?" Arbor snorted. "They're just a few flies. They've been living comfortably and want to come out and get beaten up." Princess Wushwang turned her head to look at the flies Mu Xiaoshui and Mu Jingfeng. She grinned. "Oh, so that's what happened. Sister-in-law, I'm relieved that you're all right." Princess Wushwang pointed at Mu Jingfeng, who was being besieged by the Mu family. Don't worry about it." Arbor took in Wushwang's hand and said, "If there's nothing else, let's go back." "Stop right there." Mu Xiaoshui couldn't take it anymore and yelled. Qin Chao grabbed her back, his brows furrowed so tightly that they could almost squeeze a fly to death. The current situation was very unfavorable to them. If they rashly made a move against these people, he might not be able to win. This Mu Xiaoshui still dared to provoke them at this time. She really wasn't afraid of death. Mu Xiaoshui had truly lost her mind from anger. Originally, at this time, she would hide like a quail. Later, when no one was paying attention, she would quickly beg Zither Grass to take her away. However, she really couldn't tolerate the anger in her heart. Chapter 52-51. How could this arbor be so abominable? The matter of Jiawei City and the holy medicine had been exposed, but it didn't affect her at all. These stupid unruly people, after a few words from the crown prince, they all knelt down and begged for mercy. Were they pigs? They were all so stupid, it was a waste of their lives to be born. Mu Xiaoshui was burning with rage. Clenching her fists, she couldn't stop herself from shouting, "You've all been deceived by her. What antidote? What research? There's no such thing." Mu Xiaoshui pointed at the row of idiots kneeling on the ground and shouted, "She has the holy medicine that can cure all diseases. Do you understand holy medicine? Any poison or disease can be cured with one pill. Some of you have seen the scene of the Holy Maiden of Light using the holy fruit to save people. Aren't you curious as to why this little fruit can bring the dead back to life? Because it's the fruit of the holy wood, one of the 5 spirit origins. And the Holy Maiden of Zhaoguang only produced a holy fruit because she had a fragment of the holy wood. And this crown princess of yours, she has an entire holy wood. She is, shut your stupid mouth and stop talking nonsense." And Wushwang shouted angrily, "Zhaoguang? What Zhaoguang? The imperial court has already investigated Zhaoguang. It's a lackey of your Tianyun. Recruiting disciples everywhere is just to recruit some common people to be their test subjects. Tianyun is already notorious, but Zhaoguang is like the warm winter sun, attracting the poor people's attention. You're fooling the common people, fooling the world. Now you dare to stand out and spout nonsense on Changle Street. Tianyun is the most shameless person in history. Following in Wushuang's powerful words, the kneeling commoners all roared in anger. Zhaoguang's intentions are truly hateful. It's true. They, Tianyun, don't think it's enough to torture innocent people like us. Now they've openly formed a Zhaoguang, responsible for recruiting us, and then secretly killing people inside. They've really calculated everything. Disgusting. Bah. The crowd cursed angrily and glared at Mu Xiaoxue as if they wanted to skin her alive. Bad woman. One of the children stood up and spat in Mu Xiaoxue's direction. Jinx. Evil spirit. Evil spirit. Everyone shouted loudly and spat in Mu Xiaoxue's direction with a look of disdain. Mu Xiaoxue was so angry that she burst into tears. Arbor really did have holy wood. Why couldn't these people understand human language? Why was it that everything she said was wrong? Why was it that when the Crown Prince only said a few words, these foolish people would think that everything the Crown Prince said was right? Qin Grass looked at everything in front of him and knew that the situation was hopeless. The best time had passed. They had wanted to incite the anger of the people, but they had failed. The Crown Prince resolved the crisis with just a few words. He was really amazing. Of course, he did not rule out the possibility that these people were just smart people who understood the situation and did not dare to go against the Crown Prince and Crown Princess. However, once the seed of doubt was planted, it would grow day by day, take root, and grow strong. Chapter 52-52. In the future, these seeds of suspicion would become the most unstable factor in Divine Country. On the other side, the Mu family members who were besieging Mu Jingfeng had formed a formation to trap him. Old Master Mu was the first to make a move. He twisted Mu Jingfeng's arm and pressed him to the ground. Mu Jingfeng only felt that this formation had gathered most of the Mu family strength, causing one of his knees to go weak, and he was pressed to the ground. Arbor glanced at Mu Jingfeng and saw him being pressed there. His eyes were scarlet, and it looked like he was about to mutate again. She was afraid that the Mu family fools would be at a disadvantage, so she secretly tugged at her husband's sleeve. Mo Lien immediately understood and threw a black flame over. It turned into a circle and tightly bound Mu Jingfeng like a chain of fire. With a sizzle, the clothes on Mu Jingfeng's arm were instantly burned to ashes. He could not help but roar, "Arbor, Arbor." Mu Xiaoxue shuddered and suddenly turned her head. As if she had discovered a new continent, she pointed in that direction and shouted, "It's him. I recognize him. It's him." Everyone was startled by her ear-piercing roar and subconsciously looked in the direction she was pointing. Mu Xiaoxue casually called out, "I recognize him. It's him, it's him." Back in Jiawei City, he was the one who was bitten by a zombie, and it was Qiao Mu who saved him. You all believe that I'm telling the truth. Everything I said is true. Back then, he was on the verge of death. It was Arbor. Not only did Arbor save him with the holy fruit, but he also completely recovered. No, it's even a level higher than before. There was nothing wrong with what she said, but it was all made up by Mu Xiaoxue herself. As an ordinary woman, she naturally could not tell what Duan Wuqing's current realm was. However, this nonsense was in line with the actual situation, other than not being too obvious when he was on the verge of death. Arbor did use the holy fruit to save Duan Wuqing. Duan Wuqing's cultivation had indeed improved greatly because of the holy fruit. Not only had he broken through to the divine realm, but his cultivation speed was also countless times faster than ordinary people. As a result, he was able to advance very quickly in the divine realm. Little Fatty stood protectively in front of Duanmu Qing and glared at Mu Xiaoxue. Bullshit. How could he be on the verge of death? You're the one who's about to die, you're the one who's about to die. Duanmu was bitten by a zombie, but did you know? Duanmu was a heaven-grade alchemist. During this period of time, he has been using medicine to prolong his mutation time. Qi Xianxian hurriedly nodded in agreement, yes. You don't have the ability, yet you insist on saying that he relied on external medicine to heal himself. What kind of intentions are you harboring? That's right. Duanmu Qing suddenly pulled up his sleeve, revealing a wound for everyone to see. This is the wound from the zombie's claw. I have to treat it every 3 days. With the antidote produced by Jojo and the others, along with my own medicine, the wound will be a little better. But soon, this wound will burst open again, and the color of decay will appear again. Nonsense, he's spouting nonsense. Mu Xiaoxue shouted anxiously. This wound was clearly fresh, and the blood was bright red. This meant that Duanmu Qing had scratched himself just now. However, how could those foolish citizens listen to her explanation? Their voices were so loud that they drowned out her weak voice. Bitch. Pest. Don't speak anymore. Chapter 52-53. You're still trying to frame the crown princess. You're still trying to frame a good person. You're just a bitch from Tianyun. What right do you have to spout nonsense here? Kill her. Kill her. Kill her. The crowd was in a frenzy. Everyone's faces flashed with anger. Mu Xiaoxue was completely dumbfounded. She had never encountered such a situation in her entire life. She was like a sinner being dragged in front of everyone. Everyone was spitting and cursing at her as if she was an unforgivable sinner. But she was clearly telling the truth. She had clearly seen it with her own eyes. Why? Why did no one believe her? At this moment, Mu Xiaoxue was completely out of control. She tore off her elegant little white flower mask and screamed at the crowd around her. But no matter how loud she screamed, she could not drown out the voices of the crowd. Her voice was completely drowned out by a few people's shouts. Mu Xiaoxue stomped her feet in exasperation and turned to look at Qin Chao, who was watching coldly from the sidelines. Wasn't Qin Chao sent by the family head? Why did he always look like a bystander? Why didn't he speak up for her? Qin Chao only smiled coldly at her. His gloomy eyes made her shudder. Miss Mu, you failed. It was obvious that there was no turning back now. Mu Xiaoxue had failed. She had completely failed. TSK, with Mu Xiaoxue's weak fighting strength, she was still unable to win against the fierce crown princess. Qin Chao's cold words almost made Mu Xiaoxue cry and kneel down. Failed. What did failure mean? Failure meant that she would not be able to get the inverse the universe charm. She would not be able to get it. No. Humans were like this. Once they had hope and fell into pain and despair, it would be harder to accept than when there was no hope at all. Mu Xiaoxue was in such a situation now. She had thought that her life would be turned upside down. But now her only hope seemed to have been shattered. She could not accept it. She really could not accept it. Give me another chance. Lord Qin Grass, please give me another chance. Mu Xiaoxue collapsed in front of Qin Grass with a thump and tugged at his sleeve, begging him to let her go. Qin Grass sneered, pulled back his sleeve, and glanced at her. Master had ordered that regardless of success or failure, he was to bring this woman back. It seemed like she still had other uses. She couldn't just die like this. Moreover, this woman's looks were not bad. He still had to plan. Qin Grass smiled gloomily at Mu Xiaoxue and lifted her up with one hand. He turned around and was about to jump onto the roof and leave. A black light whizzed towards his chest. The speed of the black gold arrow was extremely fast. In just a few seconds, it had already arrived in front of Qin Grass. Zither Grass didn't panic. He activated his defensive barrier to block the attack. When he turned around, he was already sweating. Countless lines of fire, like small black snakes, slithered towards him, so fast that it was almost suffocating. At this critical moment, in order to save her life, Qin Grass could not care less about Mu Xiaoxue in her arms. Then, he threw her to the ground and quickly climbed up the wall. Then, he flashed away. If he wanted to escape alone, it would naturally be easier for him to escape. It was hard to say what would happen if he dragged along a burden who could not be of help. Chapter 52-54. Comparing other people's lives to his own, of course his own life was more important. Arbor raised his eyes and looked at him coldly. He lowered his eyes slightly and sneered mockingly. Escape? Where can you escape to? On the other side, Mu Xiaoxue, who was casually thrown aside, was completely frozen on the spot. The hatred in her heart once again turned the sky and earth upside down. That Qin Grass actually left such a delicate and weak woman like her and ran away by himself. Where was his conscience? Where was the justice of the pugilistic world? Were all these things eaten by dogs? Seeing that the black fire was coming and she was about to die, Mu Xiaoxue cried out and screamed, "No, please spare my life, Your Highness. Please spare Xiaoxue, Your Highness. Xiaoxue won't dare to do it again." Whoosh! A figure was suddenly kicked in front of Mu Xiaoxue like a ball. The newcomer widened his eyes and looked in horror at the clusters of black fire coming from the opposite side. He was suddenly hit by the black fire. His entire body couldn't help but boil and burn. Mu Xiaoxue, who was originally paralyzed on the ground, was quickly picked up by a tall man and flashed to the side. "Father!" Mu Xiaoxue cried out in surprise and joy. At the crucial moment, City Lord Mu appeared and saved her life. As expected, her biological father was awesome. The one who was kicked in front of Mu Xiaoxue to block the attack was the unlucky Mu Jingfeng. Mu Jingfeng was originally tied to the side after Old Master Mu took him down. When everyone's eyes fell on Mu Xiaoxue and Qin Grass, even Old Master Mu didn't notice Mu Jingfeng's sudden appearance. When he realized that something was wrong, Mu Jingfeng had already been kicked out to block the attack. In the blink of an eye, Mu Jingfeng's body suddenly swelled up and mutated exaggeratedly. "It's you." Old Master Mu stared at Mu Jingfeng in shock, his eyes revealing a trace of a strange light. Arbor glanced at Old Master Mu and felt that the old man's gaze was a bit strange. Was City Lord Mu of the City of Shadows very famous? He actually made Old Master Mu reveal such a shocked expression. Looking at his expression, it seemed to be unusual. You are Mu Ye's descendant, aren't you? How are you related to Mu Ye?" Grandpa Mu suddenly asked. Mu Jinghong glanced at Old Master Mu coldly. She grabbed her daughter and took 2 steps back. "Mu Ye is my father. You're Mu Ye's son. He's a child of Mu Ye's bloodline." Grandpa Mu exclaimed and nodded. "No wonder he looks exactly like him when he was young." "Grandpa, who is he?" Mu Wuzi asked curiously. Mu Yi was the old master's half-brother. According to Mu Jinghong's generation, he and Mu Jingfeng should be cousins. Seeing his ruthless appearance earlier, using Mu Jingfeng as a shield without hesitation, it was clear that he did not have the slightest bit of affection for the Mu family. Arbor also felt that it was a little strange. Mu Jingfeng, Mu Jingxing, Mu Jinghong He, she should have associated this name with them long ago, shouldn't she? They were all members of the Jing generation, but Mu Jinghong had chosen a homophonic name. Actually, his real name should be Mu Jinghong. How ironic. How much did this Mu Jinghong hate the Mu family? Not only did he secretly have an affair with his cousin's wife, he even secretly let her give birth to a daughter. So the green grassland above Mu Jingfeng's head was given to him by his own cousin. Ridiculous. Chapter 52-55. How much enmity does Mu Jingfeng have with you? Arbor asked curiously. Not only did you make him a cuckold and secretly have a child with his wife, you're even pulling him down to shield your daughter. Xiao Mu shook her small head and lamented, you really don't leave any leeway for him. There was a lot of information in his words. Everyone could not help but look sympathetically at Mu Jingfeng, who was paralyzed on the ground. Due to being hit by the black fire again, Mu Jingfeng was severely injured. Although the black flames on his body had automatically extinguished, he was so severely injured that he could not speak. Now, he could only glare at Arbor with resentment and point his trembling finger at Mu Jinghong. He wanted to question her, but the only sound that came out of his throat was a forced roar. It was as if a breath was stuck in his throat, and he could not hold it in or lift it up. He was depressed and uncomfortable. Arbor glanced at him indifferently and nodded. Your guess is right. Your wife, Mu Qingya, had her with this city Lord Mu. This Miss Mu Xiaoxue is the second daughter that your Mu family announced to the public that eldest madam had died. As soon as Xiao Mu finished speaking, she saw Mu Jingfeng roll his eyes. He was probably so angry that he was about to go crazy, right? From the looks of it, he might not be able to open his eyes again if he were to turn his back on it. Arbor gave Yu Ba a look. The hidden guard walked up and flipped Mu Jingfeng upside down, reaching out to give his back 2 heavy massages. Mu Jingfeng let out a long sigh, and his complexion looked a little better. Old Master Mu looked at the absurd scene before him and sighed. Mu Yi, you have no right to mention my father. Mu Jinghong snorted and pointed at Old Master Mu. If it weren't for you back then, why would my father be expelled from the Mu family? Ha! You still dare to hypocritically mention him now. You're simply shameless. Old Master Mu glanced at him and shook his head. No one was right or wrong back then. It's just that we had different standpoints. If you insist that I caused it, I have nothing to say. Of course you have nothing to say. You hypocrite, you don't have to say anything. Just remember that I, Mu Jinghong, am at odds with your Mu family. Mu Xiaoxue looked at Mu Jinghong in a daze, then looked in the direction of the Mu family. Father. If that was the case, was her surname also Mu? She and that Xiao Mu were actually, cousins. Jojo was also a little surprised. Mu Xiaoxue was her cousin. How could such a little white flower have the same blood flowing in her body as her? How could they share the same bloodline? Who would believe it? Are you kidding me, sister-in-law? That weird woman is your cousin. And Wushuang asked with a strange expression. Then the two of you are really too different. Princess Wushuang shook her head honestly. If I hadn't seen and heard it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Little sister-in-law's martial arts were peerless and the universe was invincible and adorable, while Mu Xiaoxue was a cripple who couldn't cultivate. The difference between them was like heaven and earth. Mu Xiaoxue also thought of this at this moment, and her face was as white as a sheet. She felt that most of the people present were looking at her. They were laughing at her. As the daughter of a talisman aristocratic family, she couldn't even compare to half a strand of hair of a sex eldest miss. Chapter 52-56. These people must be laughing at her for being a pheasant and that she would never become a real phoenix. But in fact, she felt guilty and thought too much. Not many people were looking at her. Instead, they were all staring at Mu Jinghong behind her. Mu Jinghong suddenly revealed his identity. Everyone did not expect this. In addition, he was so ruthless earlier, kicking Mu Jingfeng to death with one kick. His actions were swift and fierce, causing everyone to be shocked. Mu Jinghong looked coldly at Old Master Mu and the others. I know you hate me so much that you want to kill me. Old Master Mu sighed and shook his head. You're called Mu Jinghong, right? That's not the case. I know that it's actually you who resents our Mu family in your heart, but actually you don't have to say this hypocritically. Mu Jinghong waved her hand and sneered. Mu Jinghong, if you still have a trace of kindness to us, then let us go today. No way. Without waiting for Old Master Mu to speak, Princess Wushuang jumped out and reprimanded angrily, Mu Jinghong, as the City Lord of Shadows, you had an affair with the Hall Master of Tianyun Soaring Heaven's Hall and even had a daughter. I don't think you're innocent. You have a cooperative relationship with Tianyun, right? You're slandering us. Mu Xiaoxue was so angry that her face turned pale. She held her father's arm and said coldly, we don't know what you're talking about. What Tianyun, how can we miss Mu, can you stop pretending? Qi Xianxian couldn't help but roll her eyes and interrupt her. The person who was standing beside you and protecting you just now. Do you think we're all blind? Isn't that the dog by family head Qin's side? What's his name again? Guqin Grass. Little fatty Ko Hongwen hurriedly said. Yes, isn't that Guqin Grass? Ha, you just knelt down and begged him, asking him to save your life. Your memory is really fed to the dog. You and your father are both related to the Qin family. Now, everyone knows that the Qin family is the culprit behind the entire Tianyun Empire. Princess Wushuang nodded and said, what? Do you still want to deny it? Mu Xiaoxue cowered behind Mu Jinghong. Her eyes were red, as if she had been wronged. In fact, Mu Xiaoxue really felt that she had been wronged. What did the whole thing have to do with her? She had never joined the Tianyun Empire. She was only doing things for the sake of that talisman that could change her fate. None of the people present found Mu Xiaoxue's behavior pitiful at all. In fact, they found her even more unpleasant to the eye. Evidently, Crown Prince Mo didn't plan to continue listening to this father-daughter pair's nonsense. He waved his hand, and a dozen hidden guards immediately pounced forward, encircling Mu Jinghong without any room for objection. Father! Mu Xiaoxue screamed in horror. In the blink of an eye, Mu Jinghong clenched his fist, took out a black bead and smashed it on the ground. None of the shadow guards took a step back. Instead, they activated their defensive spiritual weapons to block the attack. The power of this spiritual bead was completely blocked by the shadow guard's defensive barrier. Mu Jinghong picked up his daughter, Mu Xiaoxue, and did not continue fighting. He turned and flew to the top of the wall to escape. After dozens of whooshing sounds, Yubao led more than 10 secret guards and chased after them. Lady Jojo rolled her eyes in a very vivid manner. How naive. Chapter 52-57. Mo Lian suppressed the smile on her lips. She held her hand and deliberately asked, Jojo, why do you say that? The entire Changle Avenue is within my talisman matrix. She swung her small hand, and several dozen jade talismans glowing with a faint purple light darted out from her sleeves again. They flew out in all directions with a swish. Who can escape? Qi Xuanchuan's eyes lit up, and she laughed out loud. My heavens, when did you set up the matrix? That's right, that's right. My Jojo, when did you set up the talisman matrix? Hurry and tell your husband. Arbor glanced at him exasperatedly and rolled his eyes at him. This guy acted as if it was real. He clearly knew everything, all right. Even if the others didn't notice when she secretly threw out the talismans earlier, she couldn't have hidden it from this guy's sharp eyes. Just as Arbor finished speaking, everyone soon discovered that Qin Chao, who had fled by himself earlier, was running back with a dumbfounded expression. When he discovered that there were many more people beside Imo Lien and Arbor, his expression abruptly changed, and he immediately flipped over the wall and jumped onto the eaves, escaping again according to his previous escape route. Everyone was speechless and silently looked at each other. How is my trapping formation? The little stoic looked up at Imo Lien in high spirits. Prince Imo nodded vigorously. Good, it's very good. On the side, third young Master Fu couldn't resist twitching his mouth. He simply couldn't bear to look at the crown prince's fawning appearance. Do you know how funny you are when you're in front of your wife? The little stoic proudly raised her head. I also think it's very good. Just watch, they'll all be back in a while. As expected, just as Arbor finished speaking, Qin Chao's figure appeared beside them again. This guy's expression was truly dark with bewilderment right now. He glanced doubtfully at Arbor and the others before his figure once again pounced onto the wall. Prince Imo raised his hand and released a black fireball. Bang! It exploded on his back. Poor Qin Grass had yet to figure out what was going on when he fell from the wall and rolled back and forth on the ground, wailing. He looks so pitiful, Arbor said faintly as he glanced to the side. 3 to 5 shadow guards immediately obeyed the order and pulled the unlucky fellow up from the ground, dragging him in front of Arbor and Imo Lien. Little Fatty chuckled as he stepped forward and punched Qin Grass in the stomach. Run, run, I'll let you run. Why didn't you run away? You've done all sorts of evil deeds and are utterly devoid of conscience. As a lackey of the Qin family, you should know quite a lot of things. All of you, don't expect to get any news from me. Qin Chao gritted his teeth and looked at everyone. You're pretty stubborn. Little Fatty grabbed the man and turned to Arbor. Can I soul search him? Arbor narrowed his eyes and sized up Zither Grass. As family head Qin's most loyal lackey, perhaps soul-searching him really wasn't a feasible option. Arbor didn't believe that there wasn't a restriction in Zither Grass's head. If he forcefully soul-searched his soul and triggered it, everyone present would probably be more or less affected. Kill him. There wasn't much use in keeping a worthless lackey of the Qin family. Since they couldn't obtain any useful information from him, then they might as well get rid of him and save them the trouble. Xiaomu waved her hand, and the words that came out of her mouth stunned Qin Grass. Chapter 52-58. He truly didn't expect that in this stoic-faced young crown prince consort's eyes, his life was actually so cheap. It was as if the person she said she would kill just now wasn't him, the Zither Grass, but merely a dog. If the little crown princess could hear his thoughts right now, she would definitely give him a scolding. Dog? Since when did she casually kill small animals? You're worse than a freaking dog, so baffling. You still have the cheek to compare yourself to a small animal. How shameless are you? Wait. Seeing that those two idiotic hidden guards were really going to press down on his head and kill him, Qin Grass panicked. He hastily twisted his hands and struggled with all his might. You don't plan to interrogate me? Interrogate me? Was there really something wrong with this crown princess? She finally caught an important enemy figure with great difficulty, but when she heard that soul-searching wasn't feasible, she actually skipped the interrogation step. Arbor couldn't resist glaring at him like he was looking at an idiot. He suddenly lifted his leg and ruthlessly kicked his dumbfounded face. The little stoic said angrily, "Damn liar." Everyone couldn't resist covering their faces. Why did this guy's temper that flared up so easily feel a bit comical? You're lying to Jojo again. Arbor was so angry that he stomped on Chenegrass's head twice in a row and scolded indignantly. You said yourself earlier that I shouldn't expect to get any information from you. Now you're saying why you won't interrogate me anymore. What's the point of me interrogating you? You already said yourself that it's impossible for you to reveal any information. You're contradicting yourself and baffling. Which sentence exactly is lying to me? Arbor stomped on him twice and said angrily, You're all a bunch of liars. From top to bottom, from Big Chene's Omega Kotoku to young Master Song Fang's Seven Flowers, they were all damn liars. The little fatty couldn't resist covering his face again. Jojo must have thought of something again and vented his belly full of anger on Chenegrass. Chenegrass deserved his bad luck for provoking the temperamental Jojo for no reason. Look at his bad luck. No, don't kick, don't hit, hit. Chenegrass squatted on the ground. His hands were held down and he couldn't resist. He could only shout, I just want a promise from you. Promise to spare my life. I can tell you. Two-faced, despicable. Arbor was furious. Qi Xianxian and Princess Wushuang hurriedly rushed forward to stop her. Jojo, don't. Sister-in-law, let me. I'll kick her for you. You can't move, so watch me kick her. Everyone was speechless. Who are these people? Qin Chao was kicked several times by Qi Xianxian and Princess Wushuang. He fell to the ground and curled up like a shrimp. Preposterous. Arbor snorted and turned to Mo Lien. Husband, this person. Ignore him. He's just stalling for time. How can we be tricked by a despicable person like him? Mo Lien grasped the little stoic's fingers and nodded. It's fine, this person is useless. After saying that, he waved his hand. Chenegrass felt that Prince Mo's attitude when waving his hand was like waving an insignificant fly. In reality, Mo Lien also thought so. What could a mere zither herb do? Tianyun's higher-up secrets were probably only in the hands of a few people like family head Qin, eldest Qin, and Omega Kotoku. Even if they interrogated these lackeys, it probably wouldn't be of much use even if they searched their souls. Since that was the case, they might as well resolve this quickly so as to avoid leaving him there. Chapter 52-59. I know where the seed fragment is. Chenegrass suddenly yelled, his entire body trembling as he curled up. He felt a cold, thin blade sticking to his neck's main artery. At the moment of imminent peril, at the moment of life and death, Zithergrass roared. Mo Lien's pitch-black phoenix eyes flickered, and she sneered, Oh. But the Holy Maiden of Light previously said that the seed fragment is currently in their saint's hands. Yes, I know. Chenegrass suddenly pointed in Mu Jingfeng's direction. He is the saint, he is the saint. Just as everyone's gazes simultaneously turned to Mu Jingfeng, Chenegrass gritted his teeth and abruptly slapped a talisman on himself. However, in a split second, his entire body shrunk into a ball and slipped out of a pile of clothes, disappearing into a corner with a whoosh. Arbor blinked. Transformation talisman. The hidden guards did not expect this person to be so shameless as to turn into a rat and slip away. They were unable to react in time. Your Highness. Crown Princess. Yuba's brows were tightly knitted, his expression somewhat gloomy. It's fine. The little Crown Princess waved her hand and said, turning into a stinky rat was unexpected. Crown Princess. A hidden guard swiftly came to everyone's side and bowed. Please go to the tea house at the end of the street to take a look. Everyone followed him to the end of Changle Street and saw an obvious transparent ladder in front of a tea house. Only half of it was still hanging in the air. The other half had already disappeared into the horizon. Arbor curled his lips. Stairway talisman. This big shot of Providence who could draw the stairway talisman was still hiding in some unknown nook and cranny. It's fine. Prince Mo smiled mockingly. A monk can run away, but the temple can't. In my opinion, Duan Yu has nothing to do recently. What do you think of having him lead those 30,000 elites to flatten the City of Shadows? Arbor tilted his head and silently glanced at his husband. I think you're digging a hole for Duan Yu. Is this really okay? Why not? Prince Mo's smile was warm and gentle, as if spring had returned to the earth. He seemed especially down to earth. Look, Duan Yu can't be idle all the time. I heard that he's been so idle that he's moldy, so he's already started leading people to mine. Arbor, what mine? I heard that a holy stone mine was discovered in the Tsang prefecture. Is that so? Jojo's eyes lit up. Prince Emot secretly gritted his teeth. He rubbed the communication jade talisman hard with his fingers. Unexpectedly, he put on a bright smile at his wife. Yes. I heard that the scale is not small, so he went there personally. Lien, I found a holy stone mine for my godson. It's so big that it's as wide as 2 mountains. When that kid comes out, I'll give him all the ores. What do you think? Why didn't I know that you have a godson? Don't you know? In Jojo's stomach. We'll be able to meet soon. Let me count the days. Isn't there still 3 more months? I'm really looking forward to it. The above was the message that Duan Yu sent yesterday to greet them. Bah! This guy just came to show off that he had mined a holy stone mine that was as big as 2 mountains. Sure enough, when his Jojo heard the words, holy stone mine, her eyes brightened. Her pair of beautiful almond-shaped eyes were glowing. Chapter 5260. He had to hurry and send this guy off to do something else. Don't just idle around all day and think about how to win his Chow's favor. Bah! Arbor blinked and waved his hand in front of Mo Lien's face. Jojo's Lien, you're daydreaming. Mo Lien returned to her senses and flashed a dazzling smile at her wife. She firmly grasped her small hand and said with a grin, it's settled then. Settled what? Arbor was exasperated. I'll send him a message right now. Mo Lien said with a grin, Duan Yu will definitely be very happy. Really? Arbor glanced at him. Duan Yu really knew how to be happy, of course. Mo Lien nodded and said with a smile, think about it, it's such a blissful thing to be able to command the elites of the 3 provinces. How about we have Neas go? Arbor suggested after some thought, isn't he also idle? That won't do. Mo Lien quickly and sternly vetoed Jojo's decision. How can we hand over such an important matter as wiping out the City of Shadows to that guy? We must find a reliable one. Arbor abruptly flung his hand away and turned to leave. Mo Lien glanced at her hand that was flung away and followed after him in bewilderment. Jojo. So in your heart, Duan Yu is the most reliable person. You might as well live with him. Mo Lien didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and he hastily caught up to them. He held Xiao Mu's hand and remarked with a smile, compared to Mais, that hairless fellow, that punk is more reliable. Arbor pursed his lips. How could he not understand? But she was also considering the dangers of waging war with the City of Shadows. Did the 2 of you secretly send a message? Xiao Mu's small face was stoic as she solemnly turned her head to ask her hubby. And no. Mo Lien quickly shook her head. Why would I send a message to him? What do we have to talk about? Is that so? Arbor looked at him suspiciously. Looking at her husband's guilty expression, it was obvious that he was hiding something from her. Don't tell me you two are up to something big again and are hiding it from Jojo. Arbor suddenly felt that the two of them were up to something. After all, it wasn't their first time. The first time was unfamiliar, the second time was familiar, and the third time was natural. No, no, no. Mo Lien shook her head repeatedly. She blinked and said, "Don't worry. I've copied the quote 100 times. I've memorized every line. I won't do it again. It's good that you know." Mr. Jojo stuffed the book back into his pocket and glanced at Mo Lien. "If you do it again, you'll have to copy it 1,000 times. You can't enter my room for a month." Mo Lien's handsome face immediately turned bitter. "Achoo! Your Majesty, don't read by the window. Did you catch a cold?" Yuanjun took out a blanket and handed it to Duanyu, who was sitting by the window. Duanyu tossed the blanket aside and said exasperatedly, "With my cultivation, do you think I could catch a cold?" He was already warm in winter and cool in summer. Regardless of whether it was the scorching summer or the cold winter, it had no effect on his constitution. As a mid-stage godly venerable realm cultivator, he could completely ignore the outside world's environment. Yuan Zhen was both amused and annoyed. He nodded and said, "If that's the case, then just now, Your Majesty, someone is secretly talking about us." Duanyu casually swiped his hand and took out a jade messenger talisman. His watery peach blossom eyes narrowed as he focused on the jade talisman. Chapter 5261. Mo Lien, this guy, really dared to find trouble for him. "Brother, here's the trouble. Today, that old geezer from the City of Shadows came to Changle Street to cause trouble and fled back. I hope you can lead the elites from the 3 provinces to encircle and annihilate him as soon as possible. We can already confirm that the City of Shadows is 100% connected to the heavenly fate." Duanyu poked the jade messenger talisman with a talisman pen and heavily penned, "Did this person scare my godson?" After a long while, no, finally came back. "Then why do you look like someone stepped on your tail?" Duanyu couldn't help but gloat. "The City of Shadows came to provoke you, but you actually escaped. You really are stupid. Scram. Then why don't you scram to my place first and try to make me scram?" As Duanyu poked the jade messenger talisman, he inwardly grumbled, "Asking for help, that's not a good attitude." He escaped from Jojo's talisman matrix. "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" "Alright, I got it. I'll bring people over tomorrow." After Arbor finished bathing, he expressionlessly walked in wearing a loose-fitting moon-white nightgown. He saw Jojo's Lotus sitting by the window, holding a jade messenger talisman in her hand and writing something with a talisman pen. She silently moved to his side and glanced at him from the corner of her eyes. "Sure enough, you're secretly colluding with him." This shout frightened Prince Mo so much that his hand trembled, and he almost dropped the jade talisman on the floor. Twitching his mouth, Mo Lien turned around and exasperatedly glanced at his angry darling. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Wifey, what kind of idiom are you using?" "Stupid idiom. What did you say to Duanyu?" "It's about the City of Shadows." Mo Lien pulled over his wifey's hand and stroked her slightly damp hair, using a wisp of fire spirit to steam it dry. Mo Lien hugged his wifey through her stomach and tilted his head to nuzzle her neck. "Jojo, it's fine as long as you're happy. You don't need to care about anything else, okay?" Arbor pinched him discreetly. In fact, she had been lazy recently and was too lazy to care about many things. In addition, it was around the new year, and the imperial court was about to be on holiday, so the officials were slacking off. There were no major events in the Eastern Palace, so Sir Jojo only wanted to sleep and eat every day. "Oh right, How should we deal with Mu Jingfeng's matter? Mu Jingfeng was detained in the Mu family's dungeon, and old Master Mu sent a message saying that he was on his last breath. Arbor was silent for a moment and then said, "Let's go and take a look tomorrow." She was tired today, so she didn't want to run around again. The most important thing now was Jojo's baby. It was time for her to get some sleep. She didn't want to think about anything else. All right. Mo Lien also knew that Jojo had been very sleepy recently. Every time he came back from the shower, he would see that Jojo was already asleep. Today was no exception. Not long after Prince Mo hugged her and laid down, he began to study her stomach. He didn't know if it was his misconception, but he felt that Jojo's stomach had been faintly hot ever since she fell asleep. When he touched it with his hand, there was a strong force that bounced him away. Could it be that the person inside was cultivating every night? Mo Lien couldn't help but want to cry at his own stupidity. How could it be? It wasn't very likely. However, he thought of what Jojo had said before. "Husband, I feel that my cultivation speed has increased a lot every day. It seems that when I sleep, I'm constantly absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Have you felt it recently?" Chapter 52-62. The spiritual power in our star domain seems to have thinned out quite a bit. Mo Lien inwardly pondered Xiao Qiao's words as he glanced at her stomach suspiciously. It couldn't be that the person inside was really cultivating every night, right? She really wanted to let Jojo use her inner vision to see what was going on. However, Jojo also said that every time she used her inner vision, she couldn't see what was going on inside. That little brat was wrapped in a cloud of white mist, so she couldn't see anything clearly. Mo Lien carefully placed her hand on Jojo's belly, but in less than a minute, her hand was flung away in disdain. Prince Mo secretly gritted his teeth and secretly said in his heart, "I'll wait for you to come out." Arbor didn't know that this childish man was competing with the unborn baby Mo. She slept all the way until daybreak. Staring at her husband's smiling face, she was momentarily at a loss. "Why didn't you answer the call today?" "I had an early holiday, wife." "Are you happy? Are you happy?" Arbor's eyes lit up. She nodded and allowed him to help her up. "Your father didn't find you for this or that again. He has the ability to handle it himself." Prince Mo was all smiles as he helped her off the bed. He turned and kissed her little face. "Jojo, let's have a sumptuous breakfast." Mo Lien personally cooked for breakfast. She made fish porridge, which was boiled with colorful divine fish. Arbor's appetite was greatly stimulated. She ate 3 bowls in a row. Rubbing her little round belly, she muttered to herself, "I can't eat anymore. Nyangqin is eating too much." Mo Lien's fingers paused. She looked at her little wife with a serious expression. "Jojo, are you talking to baby Mo?" N. Arbor looked at Mo Lien with a serious expression and said expressionlessly, "He's really like you." "Why do you say that?" "I love to eat." Arbor threw down these 2 words and slowly got up while holding his stomach. He walked towards the door. "When you helped me in Kwoto village, I even left enough money for you to buy good food." The little stoic shook her head as she walked outside. "I love eating too much." Alas, the daughter resembles her father. "I reckon this should be a girl." Mo Lien, come back, wife, who likes to eat it. Mo Lien didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she stared at her back and hurriedly stood up. "When I helped you buy clothes, shoes, and socks for 10 years in Kwoto village, weren't you the one who insisted on leaving some money for me to buy some good food?" He didn't ask for it. "Hey, the rest of the porridge is mine." A voice came from the side of the table. Mo Lien turned her head and glared at He Chen, who had suddenly appeared. "When did you come out of seclusion?" Just now. He scooped a bowl for himself and said, "Oh yeah, what were you guys talking about just now? I heard Jojo say that you like it. You're the one who likes it. Your whole family likes it." After quickly drinking 2 bowls of porridge, Hee-chan moved out the door and shouted, "Hey, where are you guys going? Bring me along to play." At this time, Arbor had already lightly jumped onto the carriage. Beside her, Saishio hastily supported her. "Crown Princess, take it easy. You're nervous for nothing," Sir Jojo said expressionlessly. She was a level 8 Divine Realm expert, yet she was merely riding a carriage. These people, as her stomach swelled up, each and every one of them became neurotic. When she turned around, she saw a man dressed in red floating up and smiling at her. "Jojo, long time no see. Your stomach has gotten a lot bigger. Come give me a hug. Hug your head." Mo Lien resisted the urge to kick him off the carriage and shouted, "Go to the Mu residence." Chapter 52-63. So fierce. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal glanced at Mo Lien and humphed before docilely sitting properly in the carriage. Then, he took out a jug of wine from his inner world and said as he drank, "Jojo, Mo Lien has been fierce to me this whole time." Arbor fiddled with the jade bracelet on his wrist and glanced at Lotus. "Don't be fierce to him." Meanwhile, Mo Lien was currently ducking into the carriage with his head lowered. Then, he saw his wife rub his head and say earnestly, "Don't always quarrel. Sigh, I really feel vexed on your behalf." Ma Shichen nearly spat out a mouthful of wine and choked on his laughter. He couldn't resist teasing, "Did you hear that? Jojo told you not to bully me all the time." Mo Lien wished for nothing more than to spit in his face. Could this stinking shameless guy be any more shameless? Scram. The latter gave him a sidelong glance and directly leaned back. "I won't." When Arbor saw the two bickering there, he simply took out a book from his inner world and silently read it. Men. They were just this kind of comical creatures. They could wear the same pants when they were on good terms, but their noses and eyes didn't match when they were angry. The little stoic sighed ruefully. The two people looked at each other and laughed at the same time. "Jojo, you're holding the book upside down." A certain Jojo, who was pretending to read the book, quickly flipped it back and expressionlessly said, "Don't disturb me while I'm reading. Be quiet." "Oh." Ma Shichen nodded. But he couldn't resist saying a second later, "Jojo, look, do you think I've changed in any way? Can you tell, Jojo, Jojo?" Arbor examined him from head to toe several times before saying in all seriousness, "You've become more beautiful." Mo Lien, a certain person, who was waiting for praise, abruptly widened his eyes and stared dumbly at Arbor. The little stoic wasn't just casually complimenting him. When Rotten Peach Blossom came out of the star field, she was indeed more handsome. It was as if her entire body was covered in a layer of light. Her entire person was shining. Mo Lien. "Why? Your wife teased me." "Bah." Mo Lien brushed him an irritated glance. She then pulled the stoic's small hand and said seriously, "Jojo, Rotten Peach Blossom has advanced." "Advanced?" Arbor looked at him again, then pursed his lips. How would I know if he advanced or not? This fellow's cultivation was much higher than hers, so how could she know that this fellow had advanced? No wonder he looked like he was shining. It was because of his advancement. Arbor suddenly understood. "Are you in the divine venerable realm now?" Arbor looked at them in surprise. A certain Peach Blossom nodded furiously at the side. "I didn't expect this." She really didn't expect that her cultivation, which hadn't broken through for so many years in the Holy Domain, would actually break through in Jojo's star field. Of course, many holy stones played a role in this as well as the Phoenix Springs assistance. But overall, the star field contributed the most. And the star field was merely a divine realm. She really didn't dare to imagine what would happen if this divine realm turned into a holy domain one day. Ciao ciao, I feel that if this divine domain of yours is transformed into a holy domain, it might be more suitable for the cultivation of a transcendent realm than Ji-Chen pointed in the direction of the sky, than that old holy domain. The little stoic raised her chin, feeling a bit smug. Of course. Didn't she see whose portable divine realm it was? Those people outside, including Mu Qingya from Tianyun, probably thought that she only had a portable divine realm. Chapter 52-64. Who would have thought that she was actually strolling around with a portable god realm? Just a portable spirit realm alone attracted many envious gazes. Many people wished they could replace her with their own bodies. Not to mention a place like a portable god realm. Once people found out, who knew how many people would covet it and cause her a lot of trouble. Arbor couldn't help but shake her head at this thought. Different situations call for different actions. She wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. If they rushed over, she would just fight them. Suddenly remembering something, Arbor asked Ma Shurchen, "What's wrong with you?" She looked at him in confusion and sized him up. Didn't Heavenly Law have any reaction when you advanced to godly venerable realm? Strange. This didn't seem to conform to Heavenly Law's deceptive style. With Heavenly Law's vengeful temper, it would definitely come out and ruthlessly send down a heavenly punishment or something at this time to teach this fellow a lesson. Wasn't this the rule? After reaching godly venerable realm, one was bound to be tempered even more. It was just a small heavenly punishment. It was impossible that it wouldn't send rotten peach blossoms. Why didn't it come today? Unexpectedly, a certain someone actually smiled at her and wagged a finger. That's why I have to appear beside Jojo. As long as he followed Jojo, heavenly punishment wouldn't descend. He knew it would be like this. Jojo was simply a divine weapon that blocked heavenly punishment. Bah, the little stoic was truly amazing. Arbor couldn't help but be speechless. You can hide from the monk, but you can't hide from the temple. It will come sooner or later. I'm not in good spirits these 2 days. Ma Shurchen said with a chuckle, after a few days, when I'm full and refreshed, I'll let it come. Arbor looked at her speechlessly. It turned out that heavenly punishment could be sent down with such consideration. She really learned something new. Jojo got angry at the mention of this. She asked, "Say, why doesn't Heavenly Law send down heavenly punishment on me? Do you think this guy is brewing for me, waiting for me to let my guard down so that he can give me a fierce blow?" Ma Shurchen sat up straight with a frown. It can't be that sinister, right? What's so certain about it? Arbor's round eyes revealed a hint of distrust. It's not a good bird. Previously, he even kidnapped my master and martial uncle. Mo Lien couldn't help but twitch her mouth. Don't you think that the heavenly Tao actually has a lot of feelings for you? Arbor shook his head with a wary expression on his face. How could anyone, the heavenly Tao, have feelings for someone for no reason? That's why you're always prepared for heaven's punishment, Mo Lien said emotionally. It's because you're afraid that the heavenly axiom will set you up. Are you afraid that you won't be able to withstand the heavenly punishments? The little guy's cautious attitude was good, but Mo Lien felt a little sorry for him. She was instinctively on guard, just like when they first met in Kwoto village. She was full of thorns towards everyone and treated everyone with such a distrustful attitude. In fact, she did not trust the heavenly Tao. Mo Lien put away his wandering thoughts and raised his hand to stroke her head. Don't be afraid. I'm here for you. If the heavenly Tao dares to set you up, it's no big deal. Arbor blinked, a serious expression on his little face. I've calculated before. Mo Lien and Ma Shurchen's mouths twitched silently. I feel that the most likely time the heavenly Tao will set me up is the day I give birth. Chapter 52-65. Xiao Mu's small face was solemn as she solemnly extended a finger and made a vow. The two men, that day is when my combat strength is at its weakest and most vulnerable. The little stoic's expression was especially serious. This heavenly law might take advantage of my weakness. Someone might also come to steal my baby. The little fellow pointed at the sky. It definitely won't be peaceful then. The two men, Sir Jojo's expression became more solemn as he spoke. I've thought it over and over. That day absolutely can't be born in the outside world. It's best if I can hide in the star domain and give birth. But I feel that it's better to be safe than sorry. I'm also not particularly certain about my due date. What if my baby suddenly comes out at a certain time? The corner of Hu Shurchen's eyes twitched, and he did his best to suppress the urge to burst into laughter. No, he couldn't laugh. If he did, he would definitely be kicked off the carriage by Sir Jojo. But looking at his Jojo's solemn and serious expression as if he was an emperor of analysis, he really wanted to laugh. As they continued to listen, the two men couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Jojo was really looking forward to the birth of the baby. She had almost rehearsed everything once. She had thought about all the unexpected situations during the labor process again and again. It was really tiring. Mo Lien couldn't be bothered with Hu Shurchen's candlelight flickering on the side. He pulled the little stoic into his arms and softly comforted, Jojo, I'm here for everything. Don't worry about those trivial matters, alright? We'll give birth in the palace. Mother has already chosen a stable wife and wet nurse long ago. Now, they're all staying in the court to secretly observe. We can't bring all these people into the star domain. It'll be troublesome with too many people and too much gossip. So, you don't have to worry about these messy things, okay? You just have to be happy and cheerful every day. Then at a certain point in time, the baby will suddenly come out. Mo Lien repeated her words as he looked at her seriously. Then make it come out quickly. Don't dawdle. Get out here right now. Xiao Mu gazed at her husband with her beautiful, pitch-black eyes, and she was unable to hold it in and burst out in laughter. Ha, scoundrel father, how can you say that about my baby Mo Lien pursed her lips. You don't know. This baby hates me. Every time I touch your stomach, it bounces me away. It's really annoying. The three of them chatted and laughed along the way. Soon, they arrived near the Mu family's Winter Moon Mountain Forest. The entire Winter Moon Mountain Forest was enveloped in the bright sunlight. The mountain gate of the Talisman patrician family appeared extremely spacious and empty. When the two children guarding the gate saw the carriage coming, they hurriedly ran forward in an orderly manner. Patriarch. Little Helper recognized the person who got out of the car at a glance. It was the newly appointed young master, so he hurriedly bowed to salute. Arbor waved his hand. Patriarch, the carriage can go up, no need. Arbor got off the carriage and looked up at the plaque hanging high in front of the mountain gate. It's not a long way. Just take a walk. Yes. It wasn't like she couldn't walk. Taking a walk and breathing in the fresh air wasn't bad either. Especially this Winter Moon Mountain Forest. After Mu Jingfeng brought people to destroy it last time, it was completely rebuilt. Now, at a glance, the trees and flowers were neatly trimmed, making people feel comfortable. The three of them strolled up the mountain and soon arrived at the Mu Estate's gate. Chapter 52-66. Mu Jinyuan, who had received the message from the mountain guarding boy, had already led a group of people over. When he saw Arbor, his face was full of smiles. Mu Jinyuan greets family head. Then, he bowed to Mo Lien and He Chin. The three of them hurriedly avoided it and returned the greeting. Third uncle, why are you being so polite to me? Arbor wrinkled her little nose. Mu Jingyuan smiled. Etiquette cannot be discarded. You are now our family head, so you should be like this. There are no outsiders here. As soon as Arbor finished speaking, she saw the group of Mu family disciples behind Mu Jingyuan step forward and respectfully bow to her. Her heart stirred slightly. Third uncle was helping her establish her prestige in front of the clansmen. When he took the lead to bow, the Mu family disciples naturally followed suit and were extremely respectful to her. As she thought this, Arbor lamented in her heart. This third uncle had always supported her from the first time he saw her. Unlike the rest of the Mu family, a portion of them supported her because they were completely disappointed in Mu Jingfeng. Mu Jingyuan was different from them. Arbor could feel that third uncle had been good to her from the beginning. That person is being held in the dungeon. Should we go take a look now or, the little crown princess nodded. Let's go now. Okay. Mu Jingyuan nodded and turned to lead the way. Jojo, this Mu Jingfeng situation, I'm afraid it's not very good. Mu Jingyuan was silent for a few seconds before speaking in a deep voice. When he was kicked out by Mu Jinghong to block that move, it was basically a direct hit to the heart. It could be seen that the furious Lien was wholeheartedly trying to kill Mu Xiaoxue at that time and did not give her any chance to live. You probably don't understand what I mean. Mu Jingyuan was silent for a while before saying, you'll understand when you go take a look. Arbor raised her brows slightly. She really did not understand what Mu Jingyuan meant. They arrived at the entrance of the dungeon and walked down the dark stairs. Finally, they saw the dying Mu Jingfeng in a dark iron cage. At this time, Mu Jingfeng's body had swelled up like a bowl. It looked like it was about to self-destruct. But what was strange was that there were no signs of self-destruction. This should be the drug that Tian Yun gave him. It's a different kind of drug reaction, Mu Jingyuan said. Arbor looked inside. Mu Jingfeng's arms and legs, as well as his neck, were each tied to a thick iron chain. He was unable to move at all. Furthermore, he seemed to have lost all consciousness and was constantly letting out low growls. I remember that when Mu Jinghong kicked him to block the attack, his body began to swell. At that time, he also mistakenly thought that he might explode, but in the end, even until now, he still looked like a weirdo. Arbor took a closer look at Mu Jingfeng and saw that the latter's body had expanded to an exaggerated degree. His head had shrunk into his neck and was almost invisible. Such a person, where was the elegant and graceful Mu family head of the past? He probably didn't understand how he ended up like this after taking Tian Yun's medicine. Arbor took a deep breath and took 2 steps forward. Mo Lien also took a few steps with him. She pulled the little stoic to her side vigilantly and sized up Mu Jingfeng. Something's not right. Logically speaking, this person's heart and lungs were attacked by the black fire and dragged on for an entire night. He should be about to die by now. Chapter 52-67. However, although he looked like he was about to die, he seemed to be hanging on by half a breath and didn't look like he was about to die. This was abnormal, unless there was a mutation in his body. Ji Chen nodded. Be careful. This person doesn't seem to be in a good state. Is there a problem? Mu Jingyuan asked with a frown. Third uncle, has he been in this state ever since you detained him here? Mu Jingyuan nodded. He's been in this half-dead state with his head hanging down. His body has swelled a little strangely, and the disciples don't dare to approach him for fear that he'll self-destruct. This underground prison has been reinforced with several layers of defense. Even if he self-destructs, it won't affect us on the surface. It's just that his current state is a little strange. From last night until now, he's swollen like a ball, but he hasn't exploded. Jojo, look. He pointed at the 4 elderly men sitting beside the iron cage. These are our Mu family's 4 elders. Because we're worried that this person will suddenly self-destruct and cause a commotion, Father specially arranged for the 4 elders to keep watch here. When Arbor came in, he already saw the 4 elders sitting with their eyes closed. They looked like they were completely immersed in their own cultivation world, so they didn't go up to disturb them. Arbor nodded. This situation is indeed a little strange. If this person was in this half-dead state, it would be quite troublesome. Then do you plan to continue detaining him now? Seeing Mu Jingfeng's delirious state, he reckoned that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of him. Even if he was locked up in the Mu family's underground prison, it wouldn't be of any help. Mu Jingyuan sighed. Father means to leave it like this for the time being. Arbor nodded slightly. He understood the old man's meaning. No matter what, he was still his biological son. He probably couldn't bring himself to kill him. Before Qin Grass escaped, he said that he was the Radiant Saint. Arbor silently glanced at Mu Jingfeng through the iron cage. However, looking at Mu Jingfeng's current state, he definitely wouldn't tell him the whereabouts of the sapling's fragments. And even if he was awake right now, Arbor couldn't be sure that he would tell him the truth. Forget it, we'd better. The little stoic small face was cold. She was about to say that they should have Jojo's Lotus send people to investigate that rundown temple again. Suddenly, an angry roar that sounded like a human came out of the iron cage. Everyone was shocked and turned to look at Mu Jingfeng in the cage. At the same time, the 4 Mu family members who were originally sitting quietly in the 4 corners of the cage also opened their eyes at the same time. Their movements were extremely fast. They pushed out their hands at the same time and shot out several defensive talismans. After several streaks of light flashed past, runes spread out in the air, forming a crisscrossing rune net that surrounded the struggling Mu Jingfeng from all directions. At this moment, Mu Jingfeng raised his head and roared. The 5 iron chains shook back and forth on his body. Arbor frowned as he looked at the person before him. With a tap of his finger, he drew a suppression talisman in the air and stuck it on Mu Jingfeng's head. The talisman flickering with purple light rapidly imprinted itself on Mu Jingfeng's skull. The 4 elders widened their eyes at the same time and looked in the young crown prince consort's direction. They had long heard that this young family head was a rarely seen master of void talisman creation. Truly, seeing once was better than hearing 100 times. Chapter 52-68. What they saw today was truly an eye-opener for the 4 elders. Not only was their young patriarch's talisman crafting speed superb, but if their eyes weren't playing tricks on them, the talismans he released just now seemed to be top-grade purple talismans. The young patriarch was truly unimaginable. In the blink of an eye, several top-grade purple talismans were simultaneously pressed against the irritable Mu Jingfeng's forehead. Several formless binding forces pressed Mu Jingfeng tightly against the iron cage's pillar, causing him to howl in pain. Mu Jingfeng was currently in a state where he couldn't recognize anyone. He screamed and yelled with all his might as he continuously struggled against the iron chains binding his limbs. However, his neck was also bound by the iron chain, and his body was now suppressed by several suppression talismans, so he couldn't move for the time being. Get into formation. One of the 4 elders hurriedly shouted in a low voice. At the same time, the other 3 elders erupted at the same time. The talismans in their hands converged into a formless sword, and a majestic force rushed toward Mu Jingfeng's swelling body. Wait! Xiao Mu's pupils contracted, and she abruptly shouted. However, the elders' momentum was already set, so how could they withdraw in time? The formless sword's force instantly struck Mu Jingfeng's body, which had swelled into a ball. In a split second, a loud boom was heard. Mu Jingfeng's ball-like body suddenly emitted rays of light, as if his body's insides had been pierced, and he suddenly leaked air. Upon seeing this, Arbor hastily signaled Mo Lien He Shurchen with his eyes. The two waved their hands at the same time, and a defensive barrier was erected. At the same time, Mu Jingfeng's limbs and body were rapidly elongating and growing uncontrollably. His throat emitted loud noises as his head drooped abnormally. All the bones in his body were making crackling noises. The four Mu family elders quickly retreated to Arbor's side, their eyes shining. Is this a mutation? However, Mu Jingfeng's mutation was a bit too ugly. Not only was his entire body constantly growing, but his limbs were also withering like grass. The flesh on his body was doing its best to shrink, and his body was becoming increasingly withered and dark. His skin was practically black. What's going on? Mu Jingyuan asked in astonishment. Did he really take some medicine from Tianyun? Arbor was also puzzled by the situation. The mutated zombies I've seen in the past seem to be better than this. Yuan Shurchen clicked her tongue and said softly, isn't that so? At the very least, after the transformation, he more or less looked like a human. Look at him. He doesn't look like a god anymore. Mu Jingfeng, on the other hand, no longer looked like a human. His limbs were like black branches, and his head had shrunk to the size of a fist. His entire body was trembling strangely. If he was as fat as a ball before, he was now as dry as a noodle. Hu Shurchen flicked an arrowhead made of wood spirits through the barrier. The wooden arrow hit Mu Jingfeng's body with a thump, but was suddenly deflected away. The wood's spiritual energy was unable to harm Mu Jingfeng in the slightest, only leaving a scratch on his shriveled black body. As a result, even Mo Lien couldn't help but be shocked. After all, that was the power of someone who had just entered the godly venerable realm. Although Rotten Peach Blossom had only used a negligible 20% of her power, Mu Jingfeng's body was still very sturdy. However, Mu Jingfeng's hard skin was a little out of her expectations. Was his entire body covered in a layer of armor? Xiao Mu's eyes shifted, and she pointed out with her finger. Countless ice needles flew towards Mu Jingfeng with a whoosh. Chapter 52-69. At this time, Mu Jingfeng was already unconscious. As he slapped with his black palms, he occasionally let out unpleasant roars. Arbor's ice needles shattered one by one in his withered black palms, turning into transparent water traces that disappeared into Mu Jingfeng's skin. The little stoic calmly pursed her lips and suddenly released a blue spiritual fire with a wave of her hand. Mu Jingfeng forcefully swatted away the blue flames with a bang. However, at the same time, that cluster of flames strangely rose with a resplendent blue radiance in his palm. Mu Jingfeng's body shook wildly as he slapped the walls everywhere while howling. Fortunately, this dungeon had been reinforced countless times, so it didn't budge even when he randomly crashed around like this. Arbor's eyes flashed, and he pointed at Mu Jingfeng. Burn it. The four elders moved their lips and looked at Arbor hesitantly. However, Arbor simply didn't look at their expressions. On the other hand, Mu Jingyuan, who was standing on the side, said indifferently, he's no longer our previous family head, Mu Jingfeng. He's already been transformed into a powerful monster by heavenly fortune. He only has himself to blame for being treated like this by family head. The elders couldn't help but sigh softly. As if they had thought of something, they remained silent and didn't speak. While they were conversing, Ma Shichen flung out several dozen wood spirits, which instantly formed a net and enveloped Mu Jingfeng from head to toe. Mo Lian flicked out 7 to 8 clusters of black flames, which landed on Mu Jingfeng's pitch-black body. Everyone immediately heard him let out inhuman howls. Arbor's small stoic face was calm as he expressionlessly looked at the monster enveloped in black flames. Not the slightest ripple could be seen in his heart. It was as if what was being burned right now was nothing more than a piece of charred charcoal. He couldn't blame anyone for reaching this stage today. If he wanted to blame someone, then he could only blame himself. Why did he believe in heavenly fortune so easily? Why did he join heavenly fortune? Why did he take heavenly fortune's so-called medicine that could mutate his body? This kind of mutated pill might allow him to reach the heavens in a single bound, but it was more likely that he would sink into a sea of bitterness and be consigned to eternal damnation. There are so many people in the world, so why did you have to try this kind of abnormal pill? He had to be responsible for the path he had chosen. He had to bear the consequences and responsibility for all his actions. This was the path Mu Jingfeng had chosen. Arbor looked at Mu Jingfeng, who was burning within the black flames. He withdrew his indifferent gaze and exchanged glances with Mo Lian. I don't know if he'll be able to regain some of his consciousness in the end, but I'm afraid it will be quite difficult. Arbor couldn't help but laugh out loud. So what if he regains his sanity? This kind of person won't change even if he dies. So be it. Let the black flames burn all the filthy and withered things under the heavens, including Mu Jingfeng's heart that had long since deteriorated and moldy. Jojo. Mo Lian knew that she was in a bad mood, so she raised her hand and patted her head. There are many things that we cannot change. We can only let nature take its course. Yes, I know. Arbor nodded. Take her father-daughter relationship with Mu Jingfeng as an example. Let nature take its course and gradually deteriorate. Let nature take its course and make it difficult to recover. Then, let nature take its course as she watched the person in front of her wither away piece by piece. This was all fated. No one could change it. Arbor sighed softly and muttered to himself, it's fated. The 4 elders frowned slightly and wanted to say a few words of advice. Chapter 5270. However, she also felt that she didn't seem to have any standpoint. After all, Mu Jingfeng had been targeting this current young family head from the start and had never treated her as a daughter. Hence, there was no father-daughter relationship to speak of right now. Did Mu Jingfeng's mutation fail? Yuan Shichen couldn't help but ask. Mo Lian nodded hesitantly. If the mutation succeeds, it should be like the zither-playing corpse puppet. I'm afraid that Tianyun's medicine depends on fate. If the mutation succeeds, perhaps you will obtain one or even many special abilities. Perhaps no one could match Chao Mu's understanding of the heavenly fate. I think Jojo's words make sense. Yuan Shichen pondered and said, Tianyun isn't stupid, right? He definitely hopes that more people in the organization can become stronger, and Mu Jingfeng's situation, it should be developing in the opposite direction. However, as Lian said, Mu Jingfeng's corpse puppet isn't even comparable to the zither-playing corpse puppet we encountered before, which has its own thoughts and special abilities. Everything depends on talent. Yuan Shichen was somewhat gloating. It's also fate. This shows that his talent might really be mediocre. If Tianyun finds out, he'll definitely scold him for wasting a precious pill. The Qin family has a good plan, Arbor said indifferently. That old man Qin thinks that if Mu Jingfeng's mutation succeeds, he might be able to control Mu Jingfeng and once again take over the talisman patrician family in Divine Prefecture. The 4 elders widened their eyes at the same time. Tianyun actually still harbored such thoughts. Truly terrible. Previously, they actually sympathized with Mu Jingfeng, feeling that it was indeed a bit desolate for him to be dealt with by his own daughter like this. Now that they thought about it, they really shouldn't have thought that way. This Mu Jingfeng deserved it. As a member of the Mu family, he didn't think of seeking benefits for the Mu family's disciples and instead thought of harming the family all day long. He truly deserved to die. Just like how he controlled Prince Fulin. Tianyun originally planned to use Prince Fulin's identity as a starting point to control the entire divine prefecture. Mo Lien couldn't help but shake her head helplessly at this thought. She didn't know if she should say that Tianyun was too naive. Did they think that a little Prince Fulin, a deposed prince who had left the center of the imperial court for so many years, could grasp the core of the imperial court? He had underestimated the great emperor of the divine land. Oh! The 5 iron chains on Mu Jingfeng's body had all been melted by the black flames. But at this moment, his mutated black body was bound by the wood spirit's large net and couldn't move. He fell to the ground, with 7 or 8 clusters of black flames still burning on his body, burning him into ashes. Rebellious girl! Mu Jingfeng bellowed as he struggled. Although the voice was muffled, Arbor heard it clearly. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. He actually woke up. Was he awakened by the fever? Or was this the final radiance of the setting sun? Rebellious girl! Mu Jingfeng scolded weakly, why you caused the death of your own father? Why you won't be able to reincarnate in your next life? Bang! A huge force flipped his body over and smashed him heavily. Mu Jingfeng rolled twice, his back slamming heavily against the cage. He was barely able to catch his breath. Arbor wasn't angry at all. She held on to the enraged Mo Lien and said with a smile, reincarnation or not, it's not up to you to decide. Big brother. Mu Jingyuan took a deep breath and said indifferently, a person's death is like an extinguished lamp. You can go in peace. Chapter 52-72. Why is eldest so muddle-headed? Mu Jingyang and Mu Jingzhuang sighed in unison. 7th Uncle Mu Jingrui was also very calm. He shook his head and took out a wooden box to take out a life tablet. Eldest brother's life lamp has already completely shattered. Logically speaking, he should already be dead. Mu Wuzi cried out, it can't be, right? Then eldest uncle right now, isn't he? Corpse puppet. This word popped up in everyone's minds. Mu Jingrui threw the box into the iron cage and sighed. Eldest brother is muddle-headed. Mu Jingfeng suddenly pounced over, but he was stopped by the iron bars. He was squeezed between the iron bars, and his deformed face was firmly pressed against the iron pillar. His 2 eyeballs were practically unable to move as he stared at Xiao Mu from the corner of his eyes. I'll bury me with your mother. Mu Jingfeng pounced over to stare at Arbor, only to spit out this sentence with much difficulty. Everyone was startled and looked at him in astonishment. Could a corpse puppet still have a clear mind? What did this mean? It meant that Tian Yun's methods might have completely leveled up. Would the corpse puppets they created in the future still retain the wills of the people when they were alive, or would they all have thoughts? If that was the case, it would be even harder to deal with. A corpse puppet's body that was impervious to swords and weapons, in addition to a brain that could think, would it be able to compete with a cultivator's world? Xiao Mu gazed at him coldly. Mu Jingfeng's mutilated and mutated body was clearly reflected in her eyes, which were only bones without a shadow of a person. Everyone saw that Mu Jingfeng, who was a corpse puppet, actually shivered in a very human-like manner. When they saw the cold light in the young family head's eyes, they all felt a chill in their hearts. Too cold. The young family head's eyes were so heartless that it was simply frightening. "You're not worthy." She coldly spat out these 3 words, but each word was like a heavy hammer that ruthlessly struck everyone's hearts. That pitiful Mu Jingfeng already had no eyelids. Otherwise, his eyelids would probably tremble a bit. At that moment, even his bean-like eyes didn't move. They just stared sluggishly at Arbor. "Mu Jingfeng, until the end of my life, my mother, will never forgive you. You don't deserve to be buried with her. Look at yourself. You're just a pile of bones and a disgusting body. Do you have the nerve to sully her eyes? Don't be so pretentious before you die. You don't trust her at all, and you don't love her either. You don't deserve her from head to toe, even your hair. In this lifetime, I won't have the chance to see her one last time." The little stoic's abnormally malicious words simply shattered everyone's hearts and souls. The elders looked at her in shock. Old Patriarch Mu Tsang's hand that was holding onto his cane was trembling slightly. They didn't know what words to use to describe the shock in their hearts at this moment. The little stoic's decisiveness, viciousness, straightforwardness, and sternness practically suffocated everyone. When the elderly patriarch looked back again, he saw that Mu Jingfeng had already stopped trembling and was silently hanging on that metal pillar. His pitch-black eyes were staring fixedly in the direction that the little stoic turned to leave. "Jingfeng." The elderly patriarch gripped his cane as tears streamed down his aged face. This was his biological son. He had raised him by his side and nurtured him since he was young. Now that he had to send off his own son, it was always sad. Chapter 52-73. Arbor ran all the way out of the dungeon with a long water spirit whip in his hand. With 2 whooshes, he flattened the 2 stone statues in front of him. She clenched her fingers tightly. Until her husband quickly floated over and hugged her in his arms. He gently pried open her fingers one by one. "Jojo, don't be sad, okay? Don't you think I'm cruel? Don't you think I'm abnormally vicious? I didn't even agree to a dying person's request. How heartless I am, how ruthless and heartless. But I don't want him to disturb my mother's rest. Because he doesn't deserve it." Nonsense. Jojo is the most soft-hearted person in the world. Mo Lien hugged her and gently comforted her. He really doesn't deserve it. When they first returned to China, although Jojo didn't say it, Mo Lien knew in her heart that she had some expectations. She would be nice to anyone who showed her kindness. However, Mu Jingfeng personally, bit by bit, destroyed this originally thin father-daughter relationship with his own hands. "I'll definitely kill the person who gave him the drug and told him to die. This is the last bit of obligation I can do for him as his daughter." She would avenge her father. Whoever killed him, she would kill that person. "He should be fond of your mother." Mo Lien was silent for a while before finally saying. Arbor sneered. I don't want that kind of impure feeling. Perhaps Mu Jingfeng always thought that the person he liked was his childhood sweetheart, Mu Qingya. He was unhappy that his family had married his mother. Or perhaps, after his mother left, he suddenly realized his own feelings and began to look for substitutes all day long, hoping to find some of his mother's shadow from them. For example, his mistress, Yuan Qiong, had eyes that resembled his mother's. However, it was only a slight resemblance. No one could become Long Chuyun, and no one could be Long Chuyun. Long Chuyun was already dead. She could never come back. The past was the past. There was no turning back. Arbor didn't stay long in the Mu family and left. Old Master Mu was saddened by the death of his eldest son. Since it was an undignified death, he ordered his men to burn the body at the back of the mountain. He found a secluded place, erected a cenotaph, and sent someone to inform Arbor. After Arbor sent the Mu family away, he stood quietly in front of the window for a long time. In the end, he didn't say anything. Mo Lien walked in from outside. When he saw his wife's sullen expression, he couldn't help but frown. He walked up to her and hugged her. It's all in the past. Don't think too much about it, okay? Arbor nodded. Let's not think about it. There's no point in thinking about it. Now that we've touched the pastry that is the City of Shadows, the celestial luck will surely retaliate. We have to be prepared. Alright, you don't have to think too much about these troublesome matters. Leave them all to your husband. Mo Lien lowered his head and kissed her forehead. Go to sleep first. Baby Mo will only be happy if you sleep well. Arbor touched his belly and thought that he was right. Even if she didn't sleep, baby Mo had to sleep. For the sake of Jojo's baby, she had to have a good sleep. Who would have thought that her husband was implying that the baby Mo in her stomach would only start to meditate after she fell asleep? It wasn't that her husband was blindly guessing. He had discovered it after days of careful observation. Chapter 52-74. He felt that his conjecture was quite accurate. This mother and son pair was truly interesting. During the day, she would meditate and cultivate. When they slept at night, he would meditate and cultivate. They really complemented each other quite well. Sir Jojo didn't notice that her husband secretly rolled his eyes at her stomach the next day. Arbor woke up early and was planning to take a group of little radishes for a stroll in the garden when she encountered Duan Muqing, who was walking up the steps. Duan Muqing was dressed in a cyan robe and appeared to be in high spirits. Arbor hastily walked closer to him and sized him up, her gaze landing on his wrist. The little stoic's face involuntarily darkened. The latter hastily explained, "Don't worry, it's just a small injury. I just tied it up to put on an act recently." In reality, the wound has already subsided. After that day, the bleeding stopped long ago, and the scars are almost gone. Actually, you didn't have to do this, the little stoic muttered softly. However, Duan Muqing smiled faintly at her. There's nothing wrong with me. Jojo, there's no need to worry. I'm just putting on a show to the public. Arbor grunted in response. She naturally understood. At that time, Lotus announced to the public that Yellow Crane's team was leading everyone to research the antidote under her instructions. Duanmu immediately went with the flow and cut his own wrist. He played along with Lotus's words and finished the show. It was all to prove that the holy fruit was ineffective. They still had to concoct the antidote themselves and cooperate with the pharmacists. They weren't willing to see Sir Jojo become the target of public criticism, even though these targeted citizens probably couldn't do anything to her. But they just weren't willing. They weren't willing to see Jojo receive such a bad reputation. Arbor knew their thoughts, but she was still unwilling to see Duan Muqing disregard his own life every time. She glanced at him and slapped a bottle of medicine into his hand. 1 pill a day to replenish your blood and qi. Duan Muqing was taken aback and was momentarily speechless. Heavens, he had only made 2 small cuts on his wrists. With his current level of cultivation, did he need to replenish his qi and blood in such a comical manner? It's unacceptable for a man to not cherish himself. Sir Jojo waved his hand at him and said with a cold face, "Be careful of your qi and blood." Duan Muqing had a dazed expression on his face as he watched Sir Jojo stomp down the stairs. A hand suddenly reached out from the side and snatched the bottle of medicine from his hand. "Hey, Duanmu, is that the medicine that Jojo gave you to replenish your qi and blood? Doesn't your vitality look good? Why do you need to replenish it?" Duan Muqing looked at the little fatty in front of him speechlessly. He uncorked the bottle and poured out a pill. Since Jojo told you to take it, it must be for your own good. Hurry up and eat. Don't let Jojo worry. Duanmuqing looked at him expressionlessly. He silently took the bottle and stuffed it into his arms. Then, he stared at the pill in the little fatty's hand. Hurry up and eat it. Don't let Jojo down. The little fatty stuffed the pill into his hand and urged him. Duanmuqing had no choice but to swallow the pill in one gulp. In the next second, he froze on the spot. The word bitter was written all over his face. Heavens, Jojo was such a scammer. This was really bitter. It was the first time in his life that he had taken such bitter medicine. Chapter 5275. Pfft, ha 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 ha. Qi Xianxian, who had been hiding at the side, suddenly jumped out and laughed wildly while slapping her thigh. How much coptis did Jojo add to the medicine that replenished Duanmu's blood and qi? It was so bitter that Duanmu was showing an expression. Jojo was so funny, ha 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 ha. She used this bitter medicine to punish Duanmuqing for acting on his own accord and not taking himself seriously. Qi Xianxian looked at Duanmuqing sympathetically and patted his shoulder. Remember to take it every day until Jojo tells you to stop. Otherwise, Jojo will ignore you. Duanmuqing's face was completely scrunched up. His gaze followed Qi Xuanxuan's laughing figure, his eyes filled with grief and indignation. What kind of stupid teammate was this? How dare she laugh at him? Qin Hong flipped over all the items on the table and glared at the guard who reported the news. Are you sure? This is the news from Lord Qin Herb. I'm very sure, the guard said hurriedly with his head lowered. Lord Qin Herb also said that he hasn't fully recovered yet, so he temporarily returned to the City of Shadows with Mu Jinghong and her daughter's stairway talisman to heal. Idiot! Qin Hong scolded. Idiot, idiot. They were all idiots. They couldn't even do such a small thing well. What else could he use them for? The guard lowered his head and didn't say anything. At this time, he would be punished by the patriarch if he said anything wrong. For safety's sake, he should speak less. What have eldest young master and second young master been doing recently? Eldest young master has been listening to music and watching dances in the courtyard. Miss Ran is serving him by his side. Ha! Qin Hong laughed instead of being angry. He was on the verge of exploding with rage. He seems to be living a carefree life. The guard didn't dare to say anything. What else could he say? If Lord Qin Herb was here, he would still listen to Patriarch Qin and scold eldest young master. He was just a small guard and didn't dare to say anything. It was safer to say nothing. Where's second young master? I haven't been able to find second young master's whereabouts recently. The guard lowered his head even more. As expected, the moment he finished speaking, family head Qin slapped him across the face. The guard groaned inwardly. Following the momentum of the palm wind, he rolled to the door and hurriedly rolled twice on the ground to show that he really had to accept his punishment. Scram! Qin Hong got angry when he saw him like that. As expected, he roared at him. The guard heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly covered the crooked hat on his head and rushed out in a panic. They are all troublesome things. Qin Hong angrily smashed an inkstone beside him, a trace of anger flashing through his heart. He had asked Mu Xiaoxue to do something for him, and it turned out to be like this. This young lady's ability to handle matters was truly incomparable to her mother's. One was up in the sky while the other was down on the ground. It was really depressing. Qin Pe angrily sat down and flung off her robe. She wanted to pick up the kettle, but when she looked, she found that everything on the table had been thrown to the ground. Bastard! He slammed the table and shouted outside, "Are all the people outside dead? Hurry and clean up this place for this patriarch." Two trembling servants came in and quickly cleaned up the place with their heads lowered. Then, they brewed a new pot of tea for family head Chin. Chin Hong's face was cold. He drank half a bellyful of tea. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. With a bang, he put down the teacup and walked out. Chapter 52-76. Where is eldest young master? He didn't do proper work all day and didn't think about how to complete his mission. Instead, he mingled with some orioles and swallows. How did he give birth to such a disappointing son? Eldest young master is at Xianglan Mountain small courtyard, the guard said with trepidation. That was eldest young master's own property in the capital. It wasn't like the shops of the Heavenly Fate organization that Prince Mo had ordered people to seize and raid. The two young masters had many open and secret properties, and most of them were still in good condition. These two were shrewd people. They basically entrusted all kinds of shops to various shopkeepers, so they hid it well. Chin Hong's face was filled with anger. Go. If anyone dares to blabber, inform him and I'll kill you. He wanted to see how carefree this eldest son of his was. When everyone saw that family head Chin was angry, they hastily followed him with fear and trepidation. In the capital, one naturally couldn't wantonly ride spirit beasts on the streets, much less ride flying beasts. Not everyone had the same privilege as the young crown prince consort. If an ordinary person dared to use a flying spirit beast to approach the capital, they would probably be mistaken for invaders. Family head Chin obediently had someone prepare a carriage, and he angrily headed for Xianglan Mountain. Xianglan Mountain was located in the eastern district near the city gate. It was neighboring to the Chin estate's original residence, but because it was separated by Xiangxin Lake, it was still quite a distance to go around. Ever since the Chin estate's Heavenly Fate identity was exposed, Prince Mo, that shameless person, directly led people to seize the Chin estate. The land within 100 kilometers of Xiangxin Lake, including all of the Chin estate's medicine gardens, incense gardens, and so on, were all included in the imperial court's assets. This stinking, shameless crown prince moved so quickly that it made one's hair stand on end. Ever since the crown prince returned from the River of Forgetfulness and entered the capital, he had already made such a big move. He swiftly seized the Chin estate, confiscated all of the Chin family's properties in the capital, and dispatched troops to guard Xiangxin Lake. Was he shameless? He was extremely shameless. He and that stoic-faced crown princess were simply a perfect match. They were a pair of black-hearted and shameless goods. Bah. Family head Chin spat at His Highness the Crown Prince the entire way. He circled around Xiangxin Lake's encampment and angrily rushed to Fragrant Orchid Mountain Small Resort. Fragrant Orchid Mountain was not large, but because of the beautiful environment, many wealthy families had bought land and houses nearby and built their own gardens. There were also many farmsteads at the foot of Xianglan Mountain. When the tenant farmers saw the carriage coming, they only glanced at it and didn't do much. Family head Chin had the carriage follow the spiraling mountain path and arrive at the entrance of his eldest son's manor halfway up the mountain. There was a plaque hanging at the entrance of the villa with the words, "Heavenly Wind" written on it. There were also two bronze lions placed at the entrance, which was quite awe-inspiring. When family head Chin got out of the carriage, he was so angry that he laughed. Look at this son of his. Planting willows at the front door and planting flowers at the back door, he really lived a very carefree life. Every day, he had to deal with the organization's matters. He couldn't sleep well night after night, but this guy was still here leisurely. Bang! Family head Chin got angry and kicked the door. The door was tightly shut and didn't move at all. It seemed like this stinky brat had set up a restriction. Where did he put his crooked thoughts? Why didn't he put this attentiveness and patience into the organization's business? That was a long-term foundation that the ancestor had laid down step by step. Unfilial son. Bang, bang. Family head Chin stepped forward and kicked the door a couple more times. Chapter 5277. Seeing that he couldn't kick the door open, he said exasperatedly, "Are you all dead? Come over here and take down this door." Patriarch, there are many villas in Xianglan Mountain, and there are also many rich people. Everyone knows who you are. What if someone sees you? Patriarch Chin was furious. What? Is this patriarch unpresentable? Fuck, it's not that patriarch is unpresentable, but the current situation doesn't allow you to see anyone. Once you show your arrogance, the imperial court might immediately get wind that this is the Chin estate's property. It will be seized and returned to the national treasury at any time. Creak. As he spoke, the door opened from the inside, revealing a small gap. A red-clothed young man who was wearing revealing clothes and showing off his beautiful legs hurriedly ushered family head Chin in like a thief. He lowered his voice and said, "Family head, lower your voice. Don't alarm the neighbors and attract people here. This is the private property that young master saved with great difficulty. If it's gone, young master won't know where to live." The guards behind Patriarch Chin twitched their mouths at the same time. They could clearly see that the vein on Patriarch Chin's forehead was throbbing several times. He was probably so angry that his brain was congested. He came to visit his son, and his son greeted him like a thief. Where was his dignity as the patriarch of the family? He would be a joke if word got out. "Where's boss? Where is he? Get him to come out and see me immediately." Patriarch Chin angrily rebuked, but that red-clothed young man hurriedly came up and covered his mouth. That fragrant wind blew in his face, making Patriarch Chin so angry that his head kept throbbing. What kind of coquettish sluts were these? Men didn't act like men, all of them revealing their chests and legs. Could it be that his son had been led astray by these coquettish sluts? Abruptly flinging that young man's hand away, Chin Hong pointed at him and was about to shout. Hong Yi hurriedly opened the door a little and beckoned everyone in with his finger. "Hurry, hurry, come in. Let's talk inside." The guards' mouths twitched fiercely. They lowered their heads and hurriedly followed their master into the room. Red Yi slammed the door shut, patted her chest, and winked at the crowd. "Aya, you scared me to death. This is one of young master's few private properties. If it's seized, then our family can only sleep on the streets." Chin Hong pointed at Hong Yi and roared, "Scram!" Hong Yi quickly turned around and ran away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Everyone was speechless. Fuck, what kind of weirdos are those around eldest young master? Family head Chin was so angry that he was panting. Then, he saw a person slowly walking over from a small path. Although he seemed to be walking slowly, he actually covered several miles with each step. In an instant, he was right in front of them. "Greetings, family head." The handsome man bowed to family head Chin. Family head Chin had a belly full of anger. "Where's Xian? Tell him to come see me. This subordinate has already informed the young master. Patriarch, please take a seat here for a moment." Family head Chin angrily followed Fan Meng through the corridors and aisles. They entered the side door of the garden and arrived at a tea pavilion. Then, they heard a lazy voice laughing. "Father, I heard that you made a scene at the front door. What are you doing? This son doesn't have many private properties in the capital. If you make a scene and everyone knows about it, it will definitely attract the brat surnamed Mo, who will seize my property as well." The elderly patriarch turned around to take a look. He was so angry that his nose twitched. Chapter 5278. His eldest son is sitting next to the swing, with a table in front of him. He's tasting good wine and good food. Beside him are two graceful beauties who are covering their mouths and chuckling. There's a lead dancer on the lawn in front, followed by a string of women. Compared to others, it's really infuriating. While he was painstakingly planning for the organization day and night, making plans for the organization until he was bald. His eldest son is here singing and dancing, feasting day and night. There's no trace of his second son, not even a ghost's shadow can be seen. These are his two most outstanding sons. It's all because of that little slut. So he wants to kill that little slut and fish up his two outstanding sons from the abyss. Achoo, achoo. Arbor sneezes a few times, looking around with a puzzled face. Is someone secretly cursing Jojo? Why do I feel like something's wrong with my whole body when I come out today? Don't tell me I've been cursed by someone. The two little radish heads who are playing in front of her jump and run to her side. They shake her sleeve and say, Enchanting. Benefactress. Arbor expressionlessly looks at Guangguangdaran. The little monk turns around with a startled face and also stares at Guangguangdaran. I'm the one who called her benefactress. Then you've already called her Enchanting. Can't I call her benefactress? You should call her aunt. The little monk angrily corrects. I'll call your sister aunt. I'm a condensing mirror who has lived for 10,000 years. You want me to call ouch? Guangguangdaran's head gets hit by Arbor. Then you should also call her Enchanting, lest you get it wrong. The little monk pinches his bald head. Such a small child, calling himself a senior all the time, it's simply comical. What? Guangguangdaran stares at the little monk with a stupefied face. Can he, a condensing mirror who has lived for 10,000 years, put down his old face? Impossible. Arbor couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with him. He directly picked him up and pulled the little monk with one hand. You two aren't young anymore. From tomorrow onwards, after you finish your morning classes, go to the kindergarten. Otherwise, these two little rascals would spend all day fighting chickens and walking dogs, playing crazily day and night without proper manners. A bolt from the blue. Guang and Guang looked at each other. Both of them could see the word suffering written on each other's faces. Mother. The little monk raised his head in protest. Why? Learning culture is the only way out in the future. Otherwise, do you want to be an illiterate little monk? The little stoic said expressionlessly, Mother, I also learned along the way back then. But Principal Yun said that you haven't graduated from the royal school. You're listening to his nonsense. The little stoic ground her teeth. She didn't beat her nephew Yun Yunji enough back then. But I've even read the Buddhist scriptures many times. That won't do, it's not like you'll be a monk your whole life, the little stoic muttered. Mother, what are you muttering about? I'm not muttering anything. The little stoic pinched his meaty little hand. Don't be scared, little monkey will accompany you to study. You two have a companion, and Guang will accompany you, so you don't need to be scared. Guangguangdaran was stupefied and baffled. What was going on? A condensing mirror still had to go to school. You're freaking kidding me, right? Arbor took out 3 porcelain bottles that looked like jelly beans on the outside but were actually pills. Are you going? Yes. Little monkey pounced over from behind and kept nodding his head while hanging from her leg. Chapter 5279. The little monk also nodded and raised his small hand to pick up the medicine. This move was quite useful against foodies. Arbor nodded in satisfaction and glanced at Guangguang, who had a conflicted expression. Are you going or not? Guangguang snatched the porcelain bottle from her hand and muttered, I'm not going for the sake of the pills. I'm going to protect them. Humph. If it weren't for Sir Guangguang's protection, who knew if these two weaklings could survive past 3 days? Arbor's lips curled into a faint smile. You're the best. Then it's settled. I'll send someone to escort you there tomorrow. You have to work hard, understand? Mother will test you on what you've learned when we get back. Sir Condensing Mirror, whose actual age was over 10,000 years old but who only appeared to be around 3 years old, nodded very solemnly. The little monkey, whose actual age was over 300 years old but who appeared to be 5 years old, also nodded very solemnly. We will study well. After the new year, the little monk, Kong Kong, who was 6 years old and half a head taller than these two old monsters, nodded reluctantly with a bitter expression. All right then. After reaching a consensus with the 3 children, Arbor was also quite happy on the inside. With one in her arms, one hanging from her leg, and one holding her hand, Prince Mo saw his wifey dragging 3 children in her direction from afar. He immediately dashed forward and took the condensing mirror from her arms. Jojo, where are you going? We're going for a walk in the garden. Arbor held the little monk's hand and looked up at Mo Lien. I'll go with you. Mo Lien immediately pulled over the little monkey hanging from Jojo's leg to lighten the burden on his wifey's leg. Chocho said that Shintu Jing, who was previously imprisoned in the Tower of Punishment, might be about to die. I'll go in and take a look later. Xiao Mu and Mo Lien led the little radish heads to the garden. After walking around a few times, they let the 3 of them go off to have fun. The little stoic yawned. I'm going to sleep in the star domain later. Recently, I feel that baby Mo especially likes to stay in the star domain. When I come out for a long time, he will remind me to go in. That's because this fellow cultivates at night and likes to stay in a place filled with divine energy, Mo Lien muttered softly. Arbor turned to look at him. Husband, what are you muttering about? Mo Lien reached out and grabbed her. Nothing much. Wifey, why don't you sleep in the star domain tonight? Arbor thought about it and nodded. I don't have much to do recently, so I'll go to the star field and stay there for a while. Then, a bitter expression appeared on her face. She looked at her husband and said, after I got pregnant, I actually didn't like to stay in the star field. Do you know why? Mo Lien held back her laughter and nodded. Because you stayed in the star field for a long time. When you came out, you realized that only 3 to 5 days had passed. This way, you'll feel as if you've been pregnant with baby Mo for several years. The little stoic patted the back of her husband's hand in passing. Husband, you understand me too well. But in truth, if you don't have anything to do, just stay in the star field and draw talismans and refine pills. If you're mentally strong, you can also personally plant medicinal herbs. The main reason was that firstly, it would be safe and reassuring. Secondly, baby Mo liked it. If this fellow cultivated, perhaps it would be twice the result with half the effort. The little stoic nodded reluctantly. All right then. I'll go visit Shintu Jing later and won't come out if there's nothing. Chapter 5280. Then the 3 little ones, tomorrow, I'll arrange for them to go to the preschool to study and train. I'll leave you for a while. These 3 little rascals were truly troublesome. His wife was not in good spirits recently, so it was best to let her rest and recuperate. Xiao Mu yawned again and said with a nod, then keep a good eye on them. Recently, Mo, I don't know what she's up to. I saw her meditating for a long time. Forget it, just let her be. You worry too much. Everyone is doing quite well. You, on the other hand, must be well nourished and be happy for me every day. Mo Lien cupped her small face and planted a kiss on her cheek. You're not allowed to make me worry. What do I have to worry about? Arbor looked into the distance. Looking at the three little radishes playing together, he curled his lips in amusement. A 10,000-year-old bachelor actually gets along so well with two little kids. Mo Lien couldn't help but laugh. It's just that it sounds a little old. Actually, it's been suppressed in the abyss for so long, so it doesn't have any intelligence at all. Its intelligence is about the same as Kong Kong's. Then Kong Kong is much more mature than him. Arbor shook his head in amusement. It's pretty good to be a child. Arbor sighed softly. How could there be so many complicated things in a child's world? They could laugh and play, fight today, and make up tomorrow. Mo Lien reached out to pinch her nose. Relax, you're not allowed to think too much. Sir Jojo turned and bit him, tilting his head mischievously. Got it. Mo Lien stroked his chin, unsure whether to laugh or cry. On the other side, family head Chin stared at a maidservant who bowed and retreated after serving tea. He was so angry that he almost smashed the teacup in his hand to the ground. Qin Xian. Family head Qin sternly called his son's full name. Eldest young Master Qin was leaning lazily against the swing. His hand trembled when he was caught off guard by the old master's yell. He almost spilled all the wine from the wine glass he was holding. Father, what are you doing? Eldest young Sir Qin looked back helplessly at his unusually indignant old father and pursed his lips in exasperation. Father, it's bad for your liver to be angry. It's better for you to calm down a little. You also know that anger is harmful to the liver, and you also know that you should calm down your old father's emotions. Then why can't you work harder for your old father? Pack up and follow me back. Where are you going? Eldest young Sir Qin was rather exasperated. He stared at his father and said, Father, can you focus on your career and not meddle in your son's affairs? Qin Po was so angry that her teeth itched. What are you talking about? Don't tell me you want to betray the organization now that your wings have hardened. Qin Xian sighed. He put down the wine glass in his hand and stood up. Don't you take care of those matters in the organization? It won't collapse. Smoke rose from the top of Qin Hong's head as he roared angrily, after the failure of the kingdom of Daluo, you also have to think of countermeasures for the future. Don't forget, Forefather has high hopes for you two brothers. Qin Xian's eyes flashed. I understand, Father. Qin Hong was even angrier when he saw his son's poor attitude. The problem was, what was the use of just knowing? If he didn't take action, everything would be zero. Xian, don't forget our mission. Qin Hong looked at him seriously and said, don't be muddle-headed. Chapter 5281. You mustn't give up your bright future because of a woman. Father, what are you saying? Eldest young Sir Qin interrupted him with a grin. Don't you understand my temperament? He understood this son of his too well. He looked like he was indulging in debauchery. If he had always been like this to all women, then he would be at ease. But now, he felt that this punk treated that damn bitch differently. He could tell during the previous incident at the Red River Canyon. Back then, he sent so many people and used so many spirit stone cannons in order to annihilate the little Stoics group in one fell swoop. His primary target was actually that Stoic face. He wanted to kill this uncertain factor, but with her standing in the way, he felt that his two sons weren't that reliable when working for the organization. They were bound by her influence. As long as she died, everything would be easy to handle in the future. Moreover, he indeed wanted to kill those elite disciples from the patrician families. The best method was to capture the corpses and use corpse poison without restraint to see how valiant these mutated elite disciples could be. In the end, because boss sent Gong Song Fong, the underground hall's hall master, to intervene, the entire operation was completely bound and couldn't operate normally. Letting the tiger return to the mountain would lead to endless trouble. This was why he was so vexed. Later on, he kept wanting to kill this stoic face, but things always went against his wishes. This also included the fact that his two sons sabotaged the operation. The more they valued this stoic face, the angrier he became. Fortunately, this matter hadn't been exposed to the ancestor yet. If the ancestor knew, they probably wouldn't end well either. "Father, don't worry. Give me some time to think it over. I promise to help you think of a good way to oppose the imperial court," eldest young Sir Qin said to his old father with a chuckle. "It's best that you can think this way." Qin Hong reminded him worriedly, the matter in the state of Doluo was a complete failure. "I think there's no need to continue with that Lily-er plan." Eldest young Sir Qin's eyes flickered, and he softly made a sound of agreement. Qin Hong suddenly paused, and he abruptly turned to stare at his eldest son. "Do you know where your second brother went?" These two brats were like dogs biting dogs all day long. On the surface, they were polite, but on the inside, they were wrestling with each other. He didn't know where his second son had gone, but it was impossible for his eldest son to not know, because his eldest son would definitely keep an eye on his second son's movements. Qin Yu seemed to have thought of something and cried out involuntarily, "Could it be that second brother has gone to the Pingjin Prairie? He went to exterminate those Lily-er. Otherwise, why would they suddenly lose track of their whereabouts without any news at all?" This meant that second brother was not in the imperial capital at all. The old nest of the country of Doluo had already been annihilated once by the Tsang prefecture's emperor. Now, it was pretty much in decline. However, Lily-er's hidden base had always been well hidden and had never been discovered. Only his family knew where Lily-er's experimental base was. "He's crazy." Qin Hong shuddered and hurriedly walked out. No, he had to stop his son. His actions were tantamount to betraying the entire Sky Fate organization. If the old ancestor knew about this, Qin Hong could not imagine how the old ancestor would punish his outstanding son. Chapter 5282. He couldn't let his son be ruined by a woman. "Father." Eldest young Sir Qin flashed in front of him and said with a smile, "Why are you so flustered? You knew long ago, didn't you? When did he leave? Tell me. Hurry up and tell me." "He set off the night before yesterday." "The base should be in ruins by now," the eldest young Sir said with a smile. "Why did you do that?" Qin Mu reprimanded angrily. "Father, don't you think those things are disgusting?" Eldest young Sir Qin blinked innocently. "I wanted to gouge out their eyeballs the first time I saw them." You guys." Qin Hong muttered to himself. "Crazy, really crazy, crazy." No matter how bad those things were, they were nurtured by Tianyun. They were also part of the organization. Even if they were to be destroyed, it shouldn't be his second son who personally led people to destroy them. Only when the old ancestor gave the order that he didn't want these things could they be destroyed. But now he muttered to himself, "What the hell was this? Your second uncle found out about this." Second uncle has always been serving the patriarch. If father doesn't say anything, I don't say anything, and we don't say anything, who will know? Your second uncle has been eyeing my position this whole time. Qin Mu reprimanded angrily. If he finds out, you should know what will happen to your second brother. Don't worry, father. He won't find out. Qin Moog shook his head fiercely, still muttering, crazy, you guys are really crazy. What exactly is so good about that stoic face that you guys treat her like this? No matter how well you treat her, you are still enemies in that stoic face's eyes. Do you understand? Eldest young Sir Qin nodded obediently. Emicham, I know. Father, don't worry too much. Go back. How about staying for dinner before leaving? Qin Hong forcefully flung his son's hand away and angrily turned to stride out. He said hatefully, you two brothers will be buried in this vicious woman's hands sooner or later. Eldest young Sir Qin watched his father leave aggrievedly. He turned to exchange a glance with Fan Meng, who was standing silently behind him. Why is father so impatient? Old clan head is also worried about young master. Fan Meng said slowly. Do you think the little stoic will kill me? He muttered softly, as if he was talking to himself, but also as if he was asking Fan Meng. After a long while, he still didn't hear Fan Meng reply. Qin Xian curiously turned around to look at him, only to see that he was lost in thought, and his thoughts were nowhere to be found. A cool breeze blew past. Zhao Qiran had already stopped dancing and was currently gazing at the northern sky, lost in thought. Far away, in a secret place in the black gold swamp of the Pingjin Prairie, the flames that filled the sky dyed half of the sky red. Qin Axian led Du Guling and the others to the entrance of the cave, looking coldly at the group of women who were crying in a mess. The entrance of the cave had been completely sealed off by iron pillars. At this moment, the women were all blocking the entrance of the cave. They were crying and wailing across the red-hot iron pillars. They didn't care that their hands were pressed against the pillars, and their skin and flesh were already burnt to a crisp. Their eyes were filled with terror as they cried and begged for mercy, howling loudly. The faces were all squeezed at the entrance of the cave, struggling to breathe in the fresh air. Chapter 5283. Unfortunately, none of them were able to come out. Even when one of them reached out and tried to pry open an iron pillar, she was hit by a lightning bolt. But soon, she realized that her hand had been hit by someone. Her entire arm fell into the fire and was burned away in an instant. I can finally burn these things, young Master Omega Kotoku said expressionlessly. A light chuckle came from behind. I was wondering why it was so lively here. So they were burning corpses. The second young master's gaze turned severe, and he coldly turned around to look at the young man who raised his hand to greet him. Why is family headlong here? Second young master doesn't need to guard against me. Long Yun waved his hand at him with a grin. I'm not interested in your Qin estate's internal strife, and I won't speak carelessly to others and expose second young master's movements. Young Master Omega Kotoku stared at him coldly. And then, nothing. Long Yun was still chuckling as he glanced at the second young master and said, I was just passing by and was slightly curious when I saw the thick smoke here. Passing by, you freaking passed by the river of forgetfulness and came to the Pingjin Prairie. Do you think others are stupid, or are you stupid? What kind of path did you take? Long Yun took the opportunity to look forward and clicked his tongue repeatedly. It seems that all these lily are here. Second young master is indeed generous to dispose of all the lily in one go. If the little stoic knew about this, she would definitely be very happy. Sikong Fuling, who was following behind young Master Long, harumphed and muttered inwardly, happy my ass. Regardless of whether she was happy or unhappy, her eternally unchanging stoic face was always cold and infuriating. Family headlong is also quite generous. Young Master Omega Kotoku glanced at him meaningfully. Unifying the river of forgetfulness in just a few short months, your methods are truly outstanding. You flatter me. It's just that the long clan of forgetfulness has a great foundation and I'm merely inheriting the foundation of my ancestors. Ha, ha. Omega Kotoku glanced at him coldly. You're too modest, Master Long, you are now the family head of the Forgotten River Dragon clan. He was also the leader of the demon sect. Being overly humble was equivalent to being arrogant. Omega Kotoku said coldly, the Wangchuan Duo clan only exists in name. The other two small aristocratic families of the River of Forgetfulness are no match for your dragon clan. Aside from Murong of the River of Forgetfulness, you, as the head of the Long family, can be considered the most powerful family in the River of Forgetfulness. Ayaya, I didn't expect second young master to praise me like this. Long Yun laughed heartily, looking very happy. As expected of my partner, your analysis is on point. Second young master said expressionlessly, what are you doing here? Don't talk about passing by, it was on the way. So fake. Long Yun blinked and chuckled as he nodded. Alright. Let's be frank with each other. As for me, I happened to pass by the Tsang prefecture 2 days ago and noticed that someone was acting strangely. Young Master Omega Kotoku's eyes flickered. Couldn't Duanyu be kinder? What kind of trouble was he up to now? He was even more detestable than when he was in the lower star domain. He would jump out from time to time like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. Right, you didn't guess wrong. That person is acting strangely. That person gathered 30,000 elite troops from the 3 prefectures and personally led the troops. From the direction I saw, they seemed to be heading straight for the City of Shadows. Chapter 5284. That 30,000 soldiers is merely an overt move. I feel that with this guy's black-bellied level, it's impossible for him to only bring 30,000 people over. He must have set up many spies, and he might have even secretly ordered people to bring another 300,000 soldiers as reinforcements. Dugu Ling's small fan nearly fell from his hand. He revealed a shocked expression. It can't be that bad, right? Would His Majesty of Tsang Province be so shameless? With the elites of the 3 provinces gathered, 30,000 soldiers are still not enough to take down a City of Shadows. He wants to secretly cause a commotion with 300,000 soldiers. No way, did he have to be like this? Do you know what he can do when he's shameless? Long Yun chuckled. We have to guard against him, don't we? The second young master expressionlessly said, it's not like he's shameless for the first time. He and that Mo fellow were simply different tunes to the same effect. They were both shameless people and were more adept at deceiving others. Dugu Ling hastily picked up his small fan and waved it. Then are we going over? Of course we're going. Family had long revealed a warm-hearted expression. But we can't just go like this. We have to make all the necessary preparations before going. Dugu Ling glanced at him. It seems you already have a very good plan. Tell me, the second young master coldly said. We can lure the enemy deep into the city and then encircle and annihilate them one by one. Long Yun's smile deepened. Dugu Ling's eyes widened. You mean, we're going to use the empty fort strategy and invite the enemy into the trap? Young Master Dugu is brilliant, Long Yun praised. It was so effortless to talk to smart people. He only had to say the first half, and the other party could immediately guess the second half. Young Master Omega Kotoku glanced at him and said aloofly, I can tell you very responsibly that this isn't a bad idea. However, Duanyu isn't a fool and might not fall for your trap. That's not true. The more conceited and intelligent a person is, the less likely they are to consider everything thoroughly. That person is also like that. Young Master Omega Kotoku's expression involuntarily flickered when he heard this, and he quietly said, "Then this young master will wait and see." In the knockoff Tower of Punishment. As soon as Arbor entered the first floor, he saw the residual shadow of the small tree swaying back and forth on the opposite wall. The branches were swaying and dancing, and the residual shadow was emitting weird laughter. He felt as if he had entered the first level of hell. "It's me." Arbor rolled his eyes weakly. Chocho's afterimage immediately stopped swaying and asked in a methodical manner, "Master, please feel free to look around. From the first to the 12th floor, each floor has a new experience." "Which floor is Shintujing on?" "Shintujing is now in the 6th layer of the Forest of Thousand Blades." Arbor said expressionlessly, "Send me there." In the blink of an eye, he was already standing at the entrance of the 6th floor. Looking into Arbor, the simulated environment was really a small forest. However, what was hanging on the tree were not leaves, but small shiny throwing knives. He saw Shintujing hanging from a huge tree on the verge of death. Her entire body was bleeding, and it was impossible to see how many small bloody holes there were on her body. "You said she was looking for me." "That's right, Master. She said she wanted to tell you something and begged you to give her a straightforward way to die." It looked like this Shintujing was really screwed over by the sapling Chocho to actually say something like this. Chapter 5285. "Chocho, wake her up," Arbor said. "Yes, Master." The little tray ant abruptly hopped on the ground and stomped its tiny feet. Several thin, sharp blades fell from the top of Shintujing's head and pierced through the back of her ears with a few whooshes. A squeal akin to a pig being slaughtered abruptly rang out. Shintujing couldn't help but shudder. When she opened her eyes and saw the little stoic's expressionless face, she actually heaved a sigh of relief and wailed mournfully, "Crown Princess, I've thought about it and remembered the location of LoveLore's base. I'll tell you right now. This is the last thing I know. I've already told you everything I know. Please finish me off immediately, Crown Princess. Give me a quick death." Arbor blinked. She didn't expect that the knockoff Tower of Punishment that Sapling set up would actually frighten a demoness to the point of crying and even repeatedly asking for death. Sapling was truly capable. Arbor glanced at Chocho, who had its head held high and was pacing back and forth with its hands on its hips, and couldn't resist saying, "Although your Tower of Punishment is a knockoff. But now, it looks rather formidable." "That's only natural, Master." Chocho shouted with its hands on its hips, "Don't look down on my Tower of Punishment. My Tower of Punishment is only a few levels lower than the one set up by heavenly law." "Emichim," Arbor hooked her finger at it. Chocho jumped into her palm. Arbor stroked it and paused for a moment before suddenly asking, "Did you hear strange cries?" "Oh, it should be coming from the realm of misfortune." Sapling waved its branches without being surprised. "Do you still remember, Master? Earlier, you sucked that duo clan member into the heart of misfortune along with a large ship." "Emichim, I remember." Arbor nodded. It was a bit shameful to say that after absorbing the entire fiery nightmare ship, the heart of misfortune was in a saturated state and couldn't absorb anything else. Jojo Sama completely forgot about it. Of course, she wouldn't tell Chocho that she had long forgotten about this matter. So Chocho couldn't see anything from her stoic little face. She answered with a serious expression and even nodded her head in a serious manner. Chocho thought that little master really remembered this matter, so it jumped up and down enthusiastically and continued, "You kept that duo in the realm of misfortune. That unlucky guy gets beaten up by a bunch of wooden people in the realm of misfortune every day. Sometimes, when he escaped, he would run into the 5 disciples of the City of Shadows and get beaten up. I think he's pretty miserable. He's even more miserable than Shintujing." Arbor glanced at Chocho expressionlessly. Chocho's beady eyes suddenly widened as it let out a strange cry. Master Silver, did you forget? You don't even remember the name of that duo something, right? Also, you don't remember the 5 disciples of the City of Shadows either, do you? You took their souls and told them to train in the realm of misfortune until they broke through to the godly realm. Then, you would let them out. They had already broken through to the godly realm level 6 or 7 not long ago, but you haven't done anything yet. I thought you were still unsatisfied with their cultivation, but I didn't expect you to have completely forgotten about them. Heavens, his little master's memory was so bad. Baby Chocho was so anxious. Chapter 5286. Needless to say, looking at Master's expressionless but actually blank little face, Chocho already knew that this fellow had completely forgotten everything. It was said that pregnancy makes one stupid for 3 years. Master was also Master. Chocho sang and hung on a strand of her hair, crying as it tugged at her long hair. You can't be stupid for 3 years after pregnancy. Chocho's heart will ache, sob sob sob. What are you sobbing about? Arbor's mouth twitched, resisting the urge to slap this little imp away. She secretly told herself to calm down, calm down. This was Chocho, the most important little friend in her life. She couldn't slap him, she couldn't slap him. She raised her hand and took out the heart of misfortune from her inner world. I'll go in and take a look, she said expressionlessly. Master, the environment inside is too bad. Not to mention the yellow sand everywhere, you even kept some corpse poison sand inside. Although these things won't attack you, it's still dirty. You still shouldn't go in. Just drag them out. Arbor thought about it and felt that Little Tree's words made sense. Thus, she expressionlessly glanced inside the heart of misfortune. With this glance, her little jaw almost dropped in shock. What did she see? A wild man running wildly, Chocho. Arbor suddenly shouted. He's covered in tree bark and has a tree branch in his hand. Is he being beaten by a bunch of wooden men? Chocho said stiffly. Those are the mechanical wooden men that senior apprentice brother Tian Tuzi made. I really sympathize with this duo something. He's being beaten by 17 to 18 mechanical wooden men every day. He's pretty miserable. Chocho, what's his name again? Master Silver, even you have forgotten his name. How could I possibly remember? Chocho rolled its eyes speechlessly. Arbor thought so too. She sighed and said to Chocho, where are my 5 subordinates? Why don't I see them? Master, why don't you take a closer look? This realm of misfortune isn't big, but it's not small either. Do you see that boat? When Xiao Mu saw that large fire nightmare ship, she looked up at the deck. Sure enough, she saw 5 disciples from the City of Shadows meditating with their heads lowered. It seemed that the fiery nightmare ship, which had a lot of supplies, had been taken over by the 5 lean disciples. This was the path of the strong. Although the ship originally belonged to Dor or something, in this environment, he couldn't defeat the 5 disciples of the City of Shadows at all. Arbor nodded, his voice faintly entering the ears of the 5 City of Shadows disciples. The 5 of you have all met my requirements. I can release you now. The 5 disciples of the City of Shadows opened their eyes at the same time. A trace of excitement flashed across their eyes. Actually, if the 5 of them were to be said to have been rather disapproving and resentful at the beginning, then they would have been very dissatisfied. As time passed, their ranks rapidly increased in the realm of misfortune. They didn't have any resentment or thoughts anymore. They weren't particularly elite disciples in the City of Shadows. Compared to those outstanding disciples, the 5 of them were nothing at all. Therefore, they were very clear that the realm of misfortune was a powerful place for cultivation. It might also have something to do with the elixirs that their little master had given them. With the help of the elixirs, the environment, and their own efforts, each of them had a qualitative and rapid improvement. Chapter 5287. This meant that there was no need for them to resent this matter. It was true that they had handed over a strand of their soul, but in reality, they had received countless benefits. If it had been any other time, they might not have been able to improve to this level even after 10, 20, 30 years. By now, they were already completely convinced of his strength. As long as they did not have any second thoughts, their future would be smooth sailing. The 5 of them only felt the scenery in front of them change, and they appeared in a dark green forest. But upon closer inspection, they realized that there were thin green blades hanging from the trees above and all around them. The 5 of them did not dare to ask any more questions, and bowed respectfully with cupped fists. "Greetings, Master." Arbor nodded slightly and glanced at the 5 of them. "The speed of your improvement is not bad." Arbor said, "Now I can let you out to do something for me." "Thank you, Master." The 5 of them were overjoyed and cupped their fists together. "From now on, you will be called E1, E2, E3, E4, E5. Sir Jojo said expressionlessly. In the future, all the people cultivated in the realm of misfortune would start with the word E, so she would not forget it. "Thank you, Master, for giving us names." Although the names were not much, the fact that their master had given them names meant that he approved of them, and the 5 of them were somewhat happy. Arbor said, "You should be very familiar with the geography of the City of Shadows. I want you to set off immediately and head to the Tsang Prefecture military camp. I've already informed them. Once the 5 of you arrive, just head straight to the camp. Once you're there, someone will naturally receive you and tell you what to do." The 5 of them bowed in unison without any objections. "Yes, Master." Arbor nodded with satisfaction. "I'll let the Blue Phoenix send the 5 of you on your way. Go now." With a wave of his hand, he released the 5 of them from the star region. The 5 of them looked back and saw that a young man had been waiting by the side for a long time. "Come on up." The Blue Phoenix let out a cry and revealed its beast form. The 5 people on its back did not say anything unnecessary and immediately set off on their way out of the Eastern Palace. When the guards saw the divine bird pass by, they only raised their heads to look at it. "Master, did you send the 5 of them to the Tsang Prefecture Emperor to help?" "Yes, after all, they stayed in the City of Shadows for a long time, so they should be very familiar with everything there. With them leading the way, it should be more efficient." "Master, are you worried about the Tsang Prefecture Emperor?" "What am I worried about?" The little stoic said haughtily, "He's just a Transcendence Realm cultivator. Is there a need for me to worry about him?" "Humph." The pitiful Chocho, who had been rebuked in the face, silently shut his little mouth. "Of course, Master time, of course, of the Tsang was for Mo to be Tsang to the Tsang. Master, of Tsang, Master of to be, to. To forget to Tsang to be, to forget to Tsang. Arbor glared at Tsang and casually released a savage with a wave of his hand. This savage still did not know that the environment had changed and jumped in front of Chiao Mu. He was still waving the branch in his hand as he muttered, Scoundrel, you wouldn't trash dare to gang up on me. See if I don't kill you." This person was dressed in tree bark and was barefooted as he waved a withered branch in front of him. Chapter 5288. Arbor glanced at him and said indifferently, "What's your name?" She had no choice. She really had forgotten this person's name. She only knew that he was an ignorant Duo clan member, but now the Duo clan was almost completely wiped out in the battle with the Dragon clan of Forgetfulness. Her grudge with Forgetfulness had also ended with the appearance of Long Xuanji and the migration of the Dragon clan members to the cold valley of Forgetfulness. As for how the Dragon clan of Forgetfulness were punished by Ding Yun had nothing to do with her. She couldn't be bothered to intervene in the grudge between Ding Yun and the Dragon clan of Forgetfulness. She didn't even intend to care. There was always a cause and effect. Who could say for sure what the cause and effect were? Duo Shanming initially thought that he had heard wrongly. He couldn't even remember how long it had been since he last heard this hateful voice. He turned his head abruptly, his eyes flickering with renewed emotions. He stared at Arbor in front of him and shouted sternly, "It's you. It's you, woman." He remembered this damned woman. This damned woman. This ghost-like woman had left him in that nightmarish place for so long, causing him to eat sand and stones all day long and unable to sleep well. How could she do such a thing? How big was it that she had to punish him like this? Women were vicious and vengeful. She would immediately take revenge on such a small matter and even torture him to death. Arbor glanced at him. Cho-cho. Cho-cho is here. The little tree ant waved its branches and rushed forward, jumping up without a word. It stretched out two small branches and waved them at Duo Shanming's face. Master is asking you a question. Why are you staring at her instead of answering? Look at your unconvinced expression. What, do you want to take revenge? I think you're looking for shit in the latrine. Let me tell you, it's impossible for you to take revenge. The little tree ant punched him twice in the face. First of all, you can't get past me. Duo Shanming was furious. After being beaten up by the little tree ant, he shouted, "You woman, I only offended you once or twice. How dare you take revenge on me like this? Do you need to be so vengeful? Vengeful? Stinky man. How dare you scold my little master? I think you're really tired of living." The little tree ant raised its two black beady eyes and pounced forward. Its two branches formed a green halo and smashed towards Duo Shanming's head with a bang. Duo Shanming was so scared that he fell to the ground. He could sense that the mighty power of the tree's spirit was not something that someone of his level could resist. Other than waiting for death or begging for mercy, he had no other choice. Before Duo Shanming could say, "Spare my life," Ye Qiaomu waved her hand and directly picked up that irascible tree ant. "What are you getting angry at a fool for?" The little trent's green halo failed to smash down and nodded. "Yes, what's there to be angry about with a fool?" The little fellow's eyes narrowed, emitting black flames. "He dared to scold you, so I'm going to beat him to death." "All right, I'll ask him." Arbor pacified the little tree ant and turned to look in Duo Shanming's direction. "You haven't answered my previous question," the little stoic asked aloofly. "You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.